Hey everybody, my name is Bryce Rankins and you're listening to episode 21 of Sneaky Geek.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Dave, how was the bathroom?
That was a long trip, dude.
It was... I'm exhausted. I am exhausted.
We recorded that in like September.
Yeah, man. That's
Yeah, I think it was September.
I think that beats my pee after Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. That was a good 45 seconds. You've definitely beat that record.
Well, you know.
Gotta go when you gotta go.
Yep.
And then keep going.
For the record, I don't want to just go throwing your business out everywhere. But Dave goes to the bathroom like 7 times a day at work.
Hold it. Now, this makes it sound like there's some kind of problem. Look,
not a lot?
For those of you who don't know, I'm a high school teacher. That means every 55 minutes, I have a 7-minute passing period.
Mm-hmm. And he chooses it to pass.
Well, if I don't go during the passing period, I'll get 20 minutes into the next class, and then I got to wait 40 minutes, 45 minutes to pee again, and that's just not going to be pleasant for anybody.
But for the record, I feel like I just wanted to go on the record saying that maybe you have to pee every passing period now, or halfway into the next one, because you've trained your body to pee every 55 minutes for the first half of your day.
Maybe he's just well hydrated.
Today we're talking about Doctor Who. And,
again?
Jazz hands.
Didn't we already talk about this for like 7 hours that one day?
Yeah, didn't we talk about this for 7 hours that one day?
This is why Bryce finished his drink already.
This is why Bryce
Indeed.
The second half of the Doctor Who episode.
Oh yeah, what happened with that?
Remember the really sad episode we had a while back where I said... That is reserved for something else, sir.
But it fits with this.
Remember the sad episode the other day when we were talking about how I lost all sorts of things when my hard drive fell?
Yeah?
Yeah, I lost the second half of our Doctor Who episode in that fall.
There was brilliance in that episode.
Brilliance that I am positive that you will be able to replicate.
Probably.
Which is why we're here. And frankly, at that point in the episode, we were...
It was well past 1 o'clock in the morning.
It was very late. We were tired. So said brilliance was definitely under the influence of tiredness.
Sleepiness.
Little alcohol.
Maybe a little.
And we were...
And some pizza.
We thought we were really fucking funny.
We kind of were.
It kind of works. We're slightly delirious.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But in better news, that was back in September.
That
was before the last...
Before the Christmas episode.
I haven't seen the Christmas episode.
Well, tough shit, because it's probably going to be spoiled for you. No. And before the regeneration into the 13th Doctor.
Yep.
So there's all kinds of stuff to talk about.
There is all kinds of stuff to talk about. So where we left off in our Doctor Who Christmas special, Sneaky Geek Christmas special, was right
September.
was right around the Whoboot.
No, fuck you. That's the worst thing that's... Okay. I've said a lot of terrible things in my time. That is my shame. That is gonna outlive me, I'm sure. That is the most terrible thing I've ever said.
Whoboot?
Fuck you. You asshole.
I almost wish that there was a corresponding drink that you had to take every time we said the words. But then that would just get you gone.
I'm going to say that could be a good thing or a bad thing because we might just say Whoboot every other word. Drink.
You know...
Shouldn't have said it.
All right. Anyway, we're talking about Doctor Who. We are talking about... specifically...
This is a podcast. And those of you who aren't here right now can't see me giving Shaba the double shock bird power.
He's flipping me off. Anyway, Doctor Who, we made it all the way from William Hartnell and all the stuff at the
behind the scenes,
time and space,
in the scenes,
all the way to Chris Eccleston, or just before.
Just before.
We left off after Paul McGann with the joint venture between the BBC and Fox.
Right.
And I don't know if I made this comment, but the first time I saw the movie, I was watching it with my buddy Rob, and Rob had the best observation. He said, "You can tell who was responsible for which parts. All the cool shit came from the BBC, all the dumb shit came from Fox."
Yeah.
And that's pretty accurate.
Wow.
Yeah. I wonder if that also applies to, what was that, season 4 of Torchwood?
Oh, on Stars.
Miracle Day?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because Stars had some really cool stuff going on for it, but there was also some aspects to that season that were just so dark. But we'll get to Torchwood in a bit. So, what happened after Paul McGann?
Okay, so after
There's a couple of years, right?
Yeah, well, the movie, the 96 movie, was intended as a pilot, for a joint venture between. Really? Yeah, it was supposed to be a joint venture, to kickstart a new series.
Yeah.
A sort of Whoboot.
Oh, fuck you.
Anyways.
I'm never going to live this down.
Not when we're having this much fun with it. You've punctuated it with a sound effect.
Like, you set that up yourself. That wasn't
I didn't expect it to. I didn't expect you assholes to buy into it so easily.
You, sir, don't know us. On these drinks, you
Sadly, yes, I do. Anyway, so the Doctor Who movie was intended to be a pilot, for a new series co-funded by the BBC and Fox. Because remember, Fox was owned at the time by Rupert Murdoch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
British citizen. So, is British, Australian, British? Anyway, a member of the Commonwealth.
Fair.
Okay. And the movie did great in England.
Right.
Because Doctor Who.
Not so great in America.
It's Doctor Who.
Because Doctor Who.
At the time.
At the time, right.
Right. There's a certain degree of legacy that definitely gives it some clout overseas, but here,
right. But again, it
wasn't ready.
Especially, at the time, because it was 96.
And there have since been movie theater events involving Doctor Who that have had great success in the United States.
Yeah.
But not until
this wasn't
Russell
in the
T
theater,
Davies
though.
comes in. And that's
this was just,
it was a TV movie.
Yeah, this was just a TV movie, so we haven't even gotten to theatrical stuff yet.
But again, at the time in America, we didn't have a lot of sci-fi stuff on prime time.
We had Voyager, I think, in 96, right?
No one watched.
I watched Voyager, and so did my brother, and so did my sister, and we all watched it on multiple televisions. That's 3 TVs.
I actually watched Voyager.
I liked Voyager a lot.
It was cool.
But Star Trek is a different podcast.
Right.
Star Trek is a different podcast.
Yeah.
And
however, there is a really cool Star Trek Doctor Who crossover.
In the comics, yes. Yeah. Which, if we want to talk about crossovers, we can do that later.
Crossovers is probably
so after the film. That's when Big Finish starts to really kick up some of the audio dramas. They had brought in some of the previous Doctors, Colin Baker, Tom Baker, and I think they had brought in Peter Davison by then, the 5th Doctor.
Oh, cool!
And they were really starting to get the machine going.
Is he Celery Doctor or Bowler Hat Doctor?
Celery Doctor. Sylvester McCoy is who you're thinking of, and it wasn't a bowler; it was more of a pork pie.
Fair.
Anyway. Since McGann was not going to get the TV episodes, pretty much almost the entirety of his story is told in the Big Finish audio dramas. Cool. And they are magnificent.
So did those start right after his episode TV movie, or was that more? Because I know he did some recent stuff with the 50th.
He has been involved pretty extensively. Big Finish was the takes the 8th Doctor and tells his stories, in part because the television rights were still tied up in in the deal with Fox.
Oh, yeah.
So it took a while for those rights to become available. And by the time they did, as they were heading into the 2005 reboot.
This is an all too familiar problem.
Yes.
This Fox has a hold of something. Fox has a hold of a right that we want to be owned by the
Firefly.
X-Men. Fantastic Four.
There's not enough drinks for this.
Right. Anyway. So McGann's story is told in the Big Finish audios.
Jumping way ahead, does this go all the way up until the Sisterhood of Karn mini episode?
The story? Yes. Yeah. And we can talk about that now, or we can talk about
it now. I mean,
okay.
This goes...
All right. So McGann does get another bite at the Doctor Who Apple on TV. He comes back for the Night of the Doctor. It's a mini episode that is released during the 50th anniversary, hoopla. And it...
Hoopla!
Hoopla! And it tells his regeneration.
Yeah.
How his story ends. And what was exciting about that was because, in the fandom, there was a lot of discussion and conflict over, are the Big Finish audios canon? Are they not canon? Mm-hmm. In the Night of the Doctor, when he regenerates, he acknowledges his companions from
the audio.
From the audios. Yeah.
Oh, how cool is that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And
that is super neat.
Right.
Which was really cool because at the time, I was a casual fan. We ended up going to the theater to see
the 50th anniversary.
The 50th episode.
50th episode.
Just the 50th episode. No, the 50th anniversary episode. But seeing the little mini episode and him mentioning stuff like that, it caused me, a casual fan, to be like, what are those about? What's And so kind of let me to go look into it and see what was going on and get into that. I haven't listened to them yet, but I plan to.
They are amazing.
I need to pick them up.
The internet blows up about it every time there's a new one, and they're like, "Oh, this is fantastic! This is great!"
Need to load those things onto my phone because I drive a lot.
Yep,
and
same.
I caught up on my Steven Universe podcast. I officially don't have any more episodes to listen to.
Cool, you can listen to more Star Wars stuff.
I guess I can go back to Star Wars
or Doctor Who stuff since we're talking about Doctor Who.
So the Big Finish audio dramas are in fact canon.
They are canon.
On the lore side of things, Paul McGann's Doctor pretty much is
official. And he was acknowledged in the television show and all that. Yeah. But that Night of the Doctor episode gives us the War Doctor.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't lead us into Eccleston. It leads us into John Hurt.
Yeah, John Hurt was
rest in peace.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace. John Hurt as the War Doctor, it fills in the gaps. A gap that Time War gap. Mm-hmm. I guess we hadn't really talked about that yet.
Right.
No. Okay. So we finish up with, as far as everyone knows at the time, at least for the mainstream viewers, we finish up with this film and then we wait 10 years and then Eccleston shows up.
Right.
About 4 episodes in. When is the Dalek in Utah?
I think you're right. I think it's about third or fourth episode.
Yeah. Then we have this mention of this kind time war.
Well,
and he's alone.
Yeah. Well, he kind of alludes to some of that
in the first
episode.
In
Rose.
Yeah.
He talks. He kind of
when
alludes.
He's talking to the big thing at the end.
Right. To the Nestine consciousness.
Yes.
He alludes to the fact that he is the last of the Time Lords. There are no others.
Something happened.
Right.
And it kind of freaked him out.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was a conscious choice on the part of Russell T. Davies, the showrunner. Davies, let me back up just a little bit. Davies was given basically a blank slate. He was one of the BBC's most important creators, at the time. They said, do whatever you want. He's like, I'll take Doctor Who. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
he also did one of the Big Finish audiobooks back in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he's been
the
around.
whole thing?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What, the whole thing? What?
I mean, he wrote a Big Finish audio drama?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And yes, I'll mention something else about that later.
Cool, yeah.
So this leads us into Eccleston.
So, yeah, but Davies had to navigate some competing interests here, including his own, because on the one hand, fans are expecting some things. Longtime fans are expecting certain things. But he also has to make it accessible for new fans.
Right.
Because at this point, there's a generation of fans or a generation of people that's come up not having Doctor Who available to them.
Yeah.
So if he relied on solely the existing Doctor Who audience, it wouldn't have lasted.
Right. And, there's plenty of people, I'm sure, in that group who didn't necessarily consider the film as possibly like something that was really official. So it's basically been a 20-year gap.
Right. And so he brings in, with the episode Rose, which is the first episode of the new series. Oh.
Beautiful.
Anyway, with Rose, there's no mention of the Time Lords, there's no mention of Gallifrey, except to say they're not here anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to introduce the basic concept. Reduced to its core. Here's this alien from the north, because lots of planets have a north.
Lots of planets have a north.
And he travels through time and space. And that's it.
That's it?
In a TARDIS.
Right.
Which is a broken chameleon circuit.
Right.
Which has a broken chameleon circuit.
Right.
So, can we go back for a second?
Sure.
Because we know Russell T Davies gets it.
Right.
He gets the thing. But does anything happen beyond the Big Finish audio dramas regarding the show? Are there any attempts to try to get it stirred, moving up
You've
again?
got things like, I think I mentioned in the previous episode, the comic strips in the Doctor Who magazine. Mm-hmm. There are novelizations of episodes. There are also the new Doctor Who adventures, which are original novel adventures.
Cool.
Okay.
So the brand is still very much thriving, just not
and
on
doing
television.
gangbusters on home video.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. It was selling great on home video. Not only VHS, but then DVD comes out. You know how this works. New format. Everybody's got to rebuy everything.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, me and all my Star Wars movies.
Yep.
Yep.
I saw a VHS copy of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone yesterday.
Yeah.
I did not know that VHS was still rocking when Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone came out.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So there were things going on to keep it alive in the public eye, at least in England. Here, not so much. In fact, by the time it aired here, because it aired in 2005 in England, it was
Eccleston's reboot, Whoboot, has I almost missed it. Eccleston airs in 2005.
right.
Okay, that's
But
Doctor
here-
number 9.
Yes, but here it doesn't air till 2006
Right.
on the Sci-Fi Network.
That's right.
In fact, by the time it airs here, it's already been announced that Eccleston is not returning and David Tennant is coming in.
Right.
Fun fact, David Tennant was the guy they originally wanted.
Oh, but he was in the middle of making...
He was filming Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Right.
Yes.
Speaking of which, I just got that book today to finish my collection, which is weird. That was the first book I read, but I borrowed
I
it
have
from
2 copies of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Man. Like I borrowed it from a friend to read it for the first time. Mm-hmm. Fell in love with it,
Yeah.
and then just bought the books after that. And then I got the other books from my sisters, but that was the book they were missing, and I just got it today from my aunt.
Ta-da.
Well, it works out.
It all works out. Good.
Yeah,
Word up.
good podcast. We'll see you guys later.
Yep. Everything
Peace.
ended happily. Whoboot. Anyways. Getting back.
It's probably a good thing this is the last of the Doctor Who episodes for some time, because people are going to stop listening if that becomes a regular feature.
Or will it?
Or will they? Probably. Anyway,
So we get David Tennant.
we'll lose all 10 of them. Just kidding. We know there's like 30 of you, especially you, person in Japan who has never responded to us calling out the fact that we know you exist and has listened to every episode.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Anyway, so Christopher Eccleston, 05,
Right.
06 in America.
Right.
David Tennant's coming on.
Right. And we're still on like a 6-month delay between airing in England and airing here.
Right.
Which was super inconvenient because by that time, there's starting. Well, yeah, spoilers.
Well, it's not really as bad. The internet's not nearly as prevalent to that point.
But there's starting to be the fandom is starting to kind of generate here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and there's starting to be demand. Remember, at this point, BBC America doesn't exist.
Right.
And are you all right?
I'm fairly certain BBC America exists at least in 2004.
Not as a widely available cable channel.
Okay, I was going to say I had it on satellite.
I was going to say because before I think it was mainly like news.
It was news and Monty Python. That was pretty much it, and occasionally Father Ted. But I watched Father Ted on BBC America, and BBC America had to have been available then in 2003 or 2004.
Dude, if my eyes roll any harder, they're going to pop right out of my head
Ted
and roll under the couch.
And Monty Python is quality satire.
Both of those
comedy.
things are a lie.
Dave and I disagree, and that's okay.
That might be because my primary exposure to Father Ted is from high school Shaba doing speeches of it. So
doing a 30-minute episode in 8.5 minutes.
Okay, BBC America launched in '98.
Okay, well, it wasn't widely available.
Pick up with
it's not so widely available, and it doesn't have the popularity that it does. That it can start doing things like Broadchurch and Orphan Black and stuff.
Yeah.
Right,
and it's definitely not catering to an American audience in a way that they're like creating content for a international audience.
Right.
So you're basically getting the leftovers of BBC 1, 2, 3, and 4. Mm-hmm. And up until that point, I mean, shoot, it's BBC. It doesn't even have current Doctor Who airing on it.
Right.
Like Sci-Fi Channel has that. And in 03 and 04, it was still playing like Fourth Doctor episodes once in a while. Those came on and they do like a marathon and stuff, because that was my first exposure to Doctor Who was when I was in high school and my brother was watching it because he loves Fourth Doctor. Shout out to Barrett. Not that he'll listen to this, but whatever. Barrett, if you're listening to this, it's because I told you to. Hi. So
hi Barrett.
What's up, buddy?
So it doesn't have the clout certainly to be able to carry a new show, and frankly, it's probably not a good idea marketing wise to air it on a channel that is not very widely received.
Exactly.
So
Sci-Fi had a much broader exposure.
Definitely. That was Sci-Fi's heyday.
That was classic.
They had Stargate SG-1 had come over from Showtime, I think, at that point. And they were creating their own shows. I think Firefly was going on over there. Reruns, at least. Fox. Carry on.
Okay. So Tennant is the 10th Doctor. Rose, the companion for Eccleston, has carried on. She's been kind of our transition character with Tennant, and we are plugging along. We saw the Daleks with the 9th Doctor.
Yep.
The Cybermen, probably the second most well-known Doctor Who villains, show up with the 10th Doctor.
We have the first allusion to Torchwood.
Yes.
We have our introduction to Harriet
Jones.
Harriet Jones.
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister. We know who you are.
Yes. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that with one of the things that Davies did that kind of carries on through subsequent seasons is he has he's playing a long game.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
My favorite part about Russell T. Davies is his long game. And I'm going to let that one slide. But he plays a long game because obviously each episode has their main plot, but there are also little hints of a bigger picture, Bad Wolf is the big first.
Bad Wolf is the thing.
It's the name of a helicopter, like it's a call sign for a helicopter.
Spray painted on a wall.
Spray painted on the side of the TARDIS. It's on the ticker going across on a television in the background.
Right. Not to give too much of it away, so we won't tell you what it is.
But it shows up, and it ends up being important at the end of the first season.
Right.
And you don't realize it until it's there, and it kind of spells.
And then you kind of got right, and then you go back and say, "Oh, there it is. There it is. There." Right, and so
cool.
And Torchwood is that thing in Tennant's first season, which then spins out into its own series,
which is great
quality.
aces, including in season 3, one of the creepiest things, if not the creepiest thing, most horrifying thing I've ever seen. It is it's during that 3rd season, that Children of Earth story. I will say no more.
Yeah.
And you'd better not either, clown
That
shoes.
was heavy. That was a heavy season.
so heavy.
And it was so well written.
Yeah.
And you're like, this isn't the Doctor Who universe? Oh,
Right?
all right.
It's a lot darker than we usually get from the Doctor.
Where Owen's going through his stuff too, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't know where
And,
he kind of stands in the world. if you
right?
will.
And fun fact, Peter Capaldi is in that series.
Yes, he is.
right.
And there's a dark scene with Peter Capaldi
there
in there
is.
too.
Yes, there is.
I think they tried to explain Peter Capaldi away. I mean, we're going off on a tangent here, but I think they tried to explain that he was
Who was one of the newer
relative
Doctors.
of the Pompeian Capaldi character.
We can let's start from the beginning here.
We can get into that.
We'll come to that.
Yeah,
we'll come
well-
to him in a
Well,
second.
let's go back to Eccleston real quick, and so we can set him aside. So far, we have talked about their Russell T Davies has taken over the series.
Right.
Eccleston is there for 1 season.
Right.
America knows that Eccleston is going to be leaving when he shows up.
Right.
Does that cause tension? Is there frustration? I mean, does that help push for simulcast? Or do they kind of
I think that I don't think that the simulcast comes about because of Eccleston's departure. The big argument for simulcast was that the ratings were good.
Yeah.
The ratings. I mean, it was.
The Phantom blew up pretty quick.
Yeah, it was. It was Eccleston's run was big for Sci-Fi. It was one of their highest rated shows.
Yeah.
And so the BBC kind of drags their heels a little bit, but by the time we get into
By the time we get into Go ahead.
by the time we get into Tennant's second season, which is the 3rd season of the new series.
The what now? The Whoboots. Please continue.
Yeah.
I hate you all. Anyway, so by the time we get into Tennant's second series or second season, we start to get into the simulcast. First it's they get it, then we get it 24 hours later. Now
Within the same day and not 6 months later.
right, or maybe it was a week off. I feel like
Yeah.
maybe it was.
I think it was a week off, and then
Yeah.
it slowly got.
Then we got same day.
Really and truly, like, 06 wasn't the greatest year for sci-fi anyway. Like, we had Children of Men, brilliant. The Fountain, great. We also had X-Men: The Last Stand.
Oh, that was so.
At this point, you're talking about science fiction,
In general.
In general.
not sci-fi. the
Superman
channel.
Returns was that year. Ultraviolet was that year. I mean,
Superman
I
Returns
feel
could
like-
have been so great.
we were hurting a little bit. I think we needed Doctor Who.
And we were
at
just
that
coming
time.
off of Revenge of the Sith,
Revenge of the Sith.
the last
And
prequel.
and I think Matrix Revolutions might have been that year too.
Yeah, I was
like-
around 05. So it was a rough couple years sci-fi wise.
Yeah.
So people were
right.
hurting for a good, solidly written sci-fi something.
And yet our bar was incredibly low, so Mickey getting eaten by a trash can was a little more forgivable.
Well, but but Doctor Who had a history of
Yeah.
kind of shaky, dodgy special effects.
Cheesy stuff.
Certainly.
And so that was well within kind of the acceptable parameters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I thought was interesting was that Eccleston was not a typical cuddly, dashing hero. He's he's like,
bomber jacket.
my ears are too big.
Yeah.
And humans are kind of dumb sometimes because they're stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Right.
But usually the hero doesn't say that.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
He's a little rough around
Salty,
the edges.
I think,
Yeah,
is how
salty.
Yeah,
is
he's
how
not
the
quite
kids
an
put it these
anti-hero,
days.
But yeah, he's salty. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's cool because like the first episode we get, we have the Nestine consciousness, and
Which, incidentally, is kind of a reboot itself of shut up of the third Doctor's first episode, Spearhead from Space.
Oh.
Because the third Doctor in that episode faces the Autons.
Mm-hmm.
The ninth Doctor faces the Autons as controlled by the Nestine consciousness. So
The Autons are the mannequins.
the mannequins, right?
Now-
The creatures made of plastic.
So for me, I just want to, my personal experience, toss it in here. I have like a weird discomfort with mannequins.
Uncanny Valley.
It's very, Silent Hill definitely has a lot to do with it as well. They have a lot of like,
Is that a video game?
yes.
Is it a scary video
It's a
game?
very scary video
That's why I don't know it.
Yep. They tend to have mannequins, like mannequin parts kind of chimera together, but it's seeing this show and I'm like we got moving mannequins, like, and they're not they do something really cool because they do the whole they're moving when you're not looking at them, which ends up coming into play really really well with the angels. You know, it's a very good tactic for horror. For sure. So it works up until they start actually moving, and then, you know, it's a little like, okay. But that being said, you know, we go through that whole first episode. We have these anti-hero moments. We have rough around the edges. We have Rose go, yeah, no, sorry, BF. I'm going to go be with this cool dude.
Well, initially she turns the Doctor down because remember at the end of the episode, he's like, so this machine, you know, this ship, it's not just moving from place to place. It goes in time, too. So you want to go? And you can kind of see, she kind of does. But she's like, no, I got to take care of this guy. I got to take care of my mom. You know, so he leaves. But then he comes back.
How long do you think he was gone?
I don't know.
I wonder.
Long enough to get a cup of coffee? Well, cup of tea, I guess. I don't know. And
He seems like a coffee drinker.
But he comes back, and he's like, we can do time too, you know, because I can have you back the second you left.
12 minutes, and then he screws
And she's like, all right, see you later, Mickey.
And then she runs in terrible slow motion.
Yes.
So the reason that happens is because cameras at that time, especially BBC's cameras, were not able to film in 60 to 120 frames per second. So they would have to slow it down digitally afterwards, which means there's no frames between the movements, which is why it's so jerky. So this is a podcast, and I am making jerky motions. Anyway, but then the second episode comes along.
I will never unsee that. God damn it.
This is weird. Do we have a sound for that?
So
Yeah, it kind of works.
we'll
Kinda.
Anyway, but then so that's the first episode. We got all that, and then we go right into the second episode, and it's like, oh, you want to see some shit? How about the end of the world?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
With a bitchy trampoline, as they call her on Tumblr.
Cassandra.
Cassandra.
Yes.
Moisturize me. Moisturize me.
It sounds really dirty when you say it like that.
It sounds really dirty when she says it.
I think maybe it sounds dirtier when you
Just
do
a little more.
It's very important that she is moisturized. You find that out later when you watch the show.
it. Anyway. But right, and this is where Rose and us, because Rose is the surrogate for the viewers, starts to get kind of a sense of the scope of what she's just tumbled into.
Yeah.
You know, because now she's at literally the end of the world. You know, 5 million years in the future.
Earth death in 25 minutes.
Right. Whereas, you know, and it's...
I
and
really like that episode.
It was
I just realized, like, I know a lot of quotes from it. Carry on.
I give you the gift of air from my lungs.
I wish that your children had said that to you before letting you test their breath after brushing their teeth.
Do you want? Should I
That's
give?
such a weird sentence. Test their breath.
Okay. Now I have to give context.
Just cut it.
Are you going to cut that?
I kind of want to keep that in there, though.
Oh, what the hell?
Real quick.
Okay, real quick for context, the Ziglets are with me this week, and I was putting them to bed before, you know, as the fellows were here and starting to set up, and you know, got to brush teeth. Sometimes those of you who have children may have noticed that they're not always completely truthful when you ask them to do something. What? I know that's so hard to believe, and so after I told them to brush their teeth, Sometimes you got to check.
Frankly, they came in and kind of volunteered it. They're like, no, really, I did. See, check.
Yeah, it was kind of like that.
It was a little aggressive.
Yeah. They both the ones that did them were very independent and didn't know the other one was. They're both in and out of the rooms.
Yeah, neither of them knew the other had just done this to him.
Right. Well,
As
and
Dave was
Morgan
gifted the gift of their lungs.
Right, and Morgan did not bother to share at all. So,
Right.
so 2 of the 3. I mean, maybe Morgan brushed her teeth tonight. Maybe she didn't. Who knows?
No, I don't know.
Which is probably more than the average listener gives a shit about the workings of the Ziegler house. So let's move on.
So, we've got this anti-hero. He's wearing a bomber jacket. He's got big ears. He's not necessarily your typical good-looking dude. And he's a little abrasive.
Yes.
He shows her the end of the world, and she's like, well, shit. This is kind of messed up, dude.
Right. As we get farther into the season, we start to find out part of why he's so abrasive is because he's got survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Massive.
Because he is...
A little bit of PTSD, too.
Yeah, he is the last of the Time Lords. We find out that the reason the Time Lords aren't around anymore is because of the Time War.
Yeah.
And we find out that he was responsible
Talk
for...
about long game.
Yeah.
They don't really reveal that for 7 more seasons.
Yeah.
Well, there's...
Hints.
You get a lot of hints.
We got a lot of hints, and Eccleston's doctor is pretty upfront about his role in things.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, now it's definitely laying groundwork that gets paid off with the 11th Doctor, but we'll get to that when we get there.
We'll get there.
But we know enough to know that when things start happening at the end of the season, there's some shock both on the Doctor's part and on our part.
Right.
And I don't want to spoil anything for a 13-year-old season, but
Yeah.
you know,
It's on Amazon,
But
guys.
that's how much respect I have for you, the listener.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. He respects you very much.
Plus, I hate having shit spoiled for me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, same.
So
The internet sucks these days.
Oh, man.
That's another podcast.
That's
totally another podcast.
Keep it track, Amir. Carry on.
We really need to get him to give us a list of all the things we say and actually do them.
I'll bet Tommy. You know, I would suggest that Tommy has a list, but I already know that Tommy doesn't do the work that he's assigned.
Damn.
Zing!
Tommy is another of my former students.
Right.
So, and I say, and when I bag on Tommy, I do it with love.
He says that of love.
Okay, so we get to the end of that season.
We get to the end of season 1, and we have the regeneration. Eccleston was unhappy on set. He had some beef early on with one of the directors, and also some conflict kind of with BBC management, as I understand it. But with some distance, he has said in other interviews that he kind of regrets leaving
recently
after
he said
one
that,
season. This is recent interviews that he regrets leaving after one season. And
I think he needed to be... I think he needed a few new experiences, and I think he needed to realize just how much he was loved.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree with that. And, you know, maybe one of the things I'm looking forward to is eventually maybe some Big Finish adventures with the Ninth Doctor.
That'd be really cool.
You know, I mean, of the, I think, 9 surviving Doctors, 6 of them have done Big Finish audios.
Yeah.
And so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So we regenerate into the 10th Doctor, David Tennant. We get the first of the Christmas episodes, the Christmas Invasion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
And that's our introduction to... is that our first introduction to Wilfred?
Yeah.
Yes, that is our first introduction to Wilf. He's strictly minor. We have no concept
No concept, no
that he's
context.
going to eventually become more important. And that is where we find out that Harriet Jones is now the Prime Minister. She had been a backbench MP.
She was just a council member sort of situation, right?
Something like that.
She was part of Parliament, but she was definitely a rookie, legislator. But after events in Eccleston's season, she kind of gets put in a position where she can run for Prime Minister and wins in a landslide.
Absolutely.
Respected power.
Yes.
And then she goes through her first episode, and we see that Tennant is nicer
in some ways.
and I was getting to that. He's nicer. He's prettier. He's kind of goofy.
Yeah.
He's got his weird like coma thing for the first half the episode. So you kind of see Rose and her mom kind of interact in a way that we haven't before.
Yeah.
And not to that extent anyway.
You can tell they expanded just the characters in general with the writing.
Yeah.
That they're very comfortable with writing the characters now, and because the first season of a reboot.
But doesn't Rose have that episode with her father in Eccleston's run?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a really
pretty
heavy one. We
Oh,
go to some heavy places and develop Rose pretty thoroughly enough that the events of the final episode of Eccleston's run really hit home hard.
Yeah.
Those final two, because it's two-parter. Which that's another thing that I feel like old Doctor Who really did a lot. Were these multi-episode story arcs, and new Doctor Who tends to do only a few a season.
Mostly one and dones, or done in ones, I mean, or
long-term
two-parters.
stuff.
Or two-parters. Yeah, I love a good 3-4-parter.
But part of that is the way the TV landscape has changed.
Sure.
TV
Anybody got the time for that.
Yeah, 13 episode.
Yeah, they're lucky people aren't expecting it to just go straight to streaming.
Yeah.
Right. So
then at the end of that episode with Tennant, now that we've had this
the Christmas invasion,
right? Now that we've had this, we see that Tennant may be a very, very good and wholesome, sweet doctor, but if you piss him off, he can do things in a way that's very clever, but still very cruel.
Right.
With what he does with Harriet Jones.
Right. And this is where, again, Rose is the surrogate for the audience for the classic fans, for the fans of classic Who. The regeneration is no big deal.
Right.
For new fans, concept. This is a new concept. What? Right. Which, and I talked in the previous episode about kind of the genius of the regeneration concept and how it allows the show to continue even as you change the actor in the main role.
Right.
Rose has to adjust to that.
As we are.
Yeah, just like we are. And so...
Which I thought it's an awesome idea for...
Yeah, because they don't do that, and I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but they don't do that for 11. We get a brand new companion for 11. And they don't do that for 12, or they do it for 12 a little bit to...
Well, but we'll talk... Let's finish. Yeah,
so, yeah,
but there are reasons for that.
Yeah.
But Tennant comes in, and we get Rose reacting to it in a sort of like...
What?
Something's wrong, I don't understand this.
Right.
We also get Rose's mother reacting to it in a... But is it that, like... I mean, what does any of this mean? Like, she comes from a complete outsider perspective.
Oh, yeah.
So we get two really good what the hell's going on perspectives that are still very different and still get treated this way.
One of the things I like about Jackie, Rose's mom, is
hilarious.
Rose. One of the things that I think works about Rose is Rose dreams of more. She dreams of more than the life that she has, which is why she runs off with the Doctor in the first place.
Absolutely.
Right.
Jackie, on the other hand, is the salt of the earth, the saltiest salt.
The saltiest salt of the earth.
Jackie is happy with, living the life she has. Does she dream for about more? Kind of, sort of.
Only in regards to like money and fame. Like she wants to be, but she doesn't want adventure. She just wants.
Right. She wants a more comfortable life.
And comfort.
That's what it was.
Comfort.
Yeah, because we see her at work a couple times and she's just exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I remember
she just wants she wants her life to be easier, and she wants Rose's life to be easier too. And which I think is why she has a kind of aversion to the adventure, because she's like, this might be cool, but it's more work.
Yeah.
Well, and she's definitely afraid on Rose's behalf. There are points where Rose
being a good mom,
right? Where in the context of the show, Rose has gone weeks.
She went months in the first episode.
Yeah,
right.
She goes to the end of the world. She comes back, and the Doctor goes, I miscalculated. You've been gone for a year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And Jackie has been freaking out.
Yeah, because Jackie didn't even know that she left.
Right. Jackie has put up missing person posters, all this. Yeah. So there's some built-in conflict there between Jackie and the Doctor.
Right.
And Jackie kind of comes to recognize that, okay, maybe the Doctor isn't so bad, but he's still kind of weird.
Yeah.
Right.
So
he still took my daughter away for a whole year.
Yeah.
And she's not entirely sure she trusts the Doctor's intentions.
No. And neither does Mickey.
Right. Mickey the boyfriend. So
Ricky the Stupid.
But once we get through Tennant's first season, we get to the end of that, so the second season of the new series, and Rose then goes. Rose leaves, as the companions do from time to time.
Yeah.
And it's pretty heartbreaking.
Oh. Is that the one on the other side of the door?
Yeah.
With
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Oh, man.
And
Yeah.
which leads us into the next Christmas special.
Which is where we get introduced to Donna.
The Runaway Bride, which is where we get introduced to Donna Noble, played by Catherine Tate.
Catherine Tate has her own sketch show. If you haven't watched the Catherine Tate show, I thoroughly recommend
I keep meaning to. And I
Oh
never
my
do.
gosh. It is.
It's
I
pretty
quote
good.
it on a regular basis. Catherine Tate is brilliant.
In related American Catherine Tate news, she was on The Office for the last 2.5 seasons.
Really?
And she was hilarious.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
no idea.
yeah. So
In
The Office is one of my
British version of The Office?
the U.S. version.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think the British version of The Office only lasted a season.
2 seasons.
2 seasons. Yeah, it was
Two
very
seasons
short.
and a Christmas special.
Yeah.
And then
Man, those Brits love their Christmas specials.
yeah, they do. And it's a cool idea. Anyways, no, she was on the last couple
Yeah,
seasons.
so
of,
Catherine Tate,
of The
well-known
Office.
comedian,
Hilarious.
and British comedian.
Yeah.
And she comes in for a Christmas special.
Catherine Tate comes in for a one-shot, just like Kylie Minogue does in a subsequent Christmas special.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, of course.
So-
just
so-
like Wilfred did in the first Tennant.
Well, but he was strictly background character.
That's
he was
true.
he
He was
was
a very
he
small-
was
He wasn't
local
supposed
color.
to be-
He was, we see him again in not this episode. We'll see him again. We'll see Wilf.
Later.
We'll
So
come
we
to
have
Wilf
a
again.
Christmas special Runaway
So we've got the Runaway Bride, and Tennant is in some ways still kind of in shock over Rose. He misses her. He knows she's not coming back.
Right.
And Donna comments at the end, maybe you need to find some, because Tennant asked her, hey, you want to come travel with me? And she's
It's
like,
no, thanks, spaceman.
no thanks. This is too crazy for me.
good.
But she does say, hey, you need to find someone, because it seems like maybe you need a friend. You need someone to go to
And
be.
at this point, I don't think he's fully mourning the removal of Rose from the show as much
agree.
as he is just in
shock.
shock.
I agree with that.
Which that
assessment.
mourning process definitely comes with the next set of episodes and the next companion.
Right, which is Martha Jones.
I love Martha, which
A
I
lot
am
of people don't.
very much
Yeah.
in a small group of people for that in many ways. But I love Martha for many reasons. One, Martha's a doctor. Martha's a real
Actual
doctor.
medical doctor.
Yeah, she's a medical doctor. So we have a doctor and a doctor, which is really cool, and it comes into play.
Oh, yeah.
Two, Martha has a really fucked up family, and it doesn't really come up.
I hate Martha's mother.
Oh, Martha's mother's awful. Martha's
Yeah.
family is a mess, but she doesn't really bring it up. It's not something that's like this massive part. When the doctor finally meets them all, you're like, oh man, sorry, Martha. But the big thing is that Martha really cares for the doctor, but doesn't realize just how much of a rebound she is. So there's a real tragedy to Martha
Yes.
that gets put on her, and it's absolutely the 10th iteration of the
writing
doctor's
for it,
unhealthiness.
It's the whole situation was so out of left field.
It's not fair. It's not fair to her.
And so
she
you don't
later
know how
becomes
to
a
feel.
total badass.
Well, yeah, and Martha finally realizes
And that's
what's
the big
what
thing is
at
when
the
Martha
end.
finally decides to go.
She's like, yeah, I can't stay here.
she leaves on her own. It's not some tragedy that pulls her away or a death or
Yeah, she's
In
not.
fact, that was one of the best written episodes. Was just that character development. And you're like,
Yeah, I love me some Martha.
Right. And one of the things that was interesting was the first time you have a not white companion.
Is that the first companion of color?
Yes.
The old COC?
Yes. And which was controversial.
Was it really?
Yeah.
What a world.
Right. And the fact that that they don't go for the romance
which was so good.
was really great. One of the things that gets pointed out, and I think people forget, is even though he looks like us, the Doctor is an alien.
Yeah.
The Doctor is from an advanced civilization and is over 900 years old during that point, during that season.
Yeah, he's
800 or 900 years old. And so, and from a culture that is as far beyond us as we are beyond ants.
Yeah.
And so the idea that he can look at his human... That's a text from my lovely wife.
Oh.
The idea that he could... She says, I love you, babe. You boys have an awesome night.
You have the coolest wife ever.
I love you too, Charlotte, and we are having an awesome time.
You also have a good night.
Yeah.
And a good day while you're listening to this.
Yes.
That's right, damn it. Anyway, so the idea that the Doctor could have romantic feelings for one of his companions or any of his companions is
She's got to really be...
kind of weird.
Yeah.
And Martha doesn't realize all this. Right. I mean, she knows he's an alien, but she doesn't know all the baggage, and she kind of has to dig it out of him.
Yeah.
You know, like when
there's a hell of a lot of baggage there.
Right. When he takes her to New Earth or New York, you know, and she makes him tell her at the end of the episode about Gallifrey.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And she sits down and she says, well, I ain't leaving until we do.
Yeah.
And so
that's kind of where we get some more information on it.
Right.
And that's cool too, because
that long
normally when you have an audience avatar like Rose, like many of these companions, it's the purpose of the companion in many cases.
Yeah.
When you have an audience avatar, they are clueless in a way that they're like, well, what does that mean? Because they need the information in order for them to progress within the story as well. But in this case, Martha's straight up like, no. I'm tired of waiting.
Yeah.
Give me the deets.
Yeah.
Which is a great moment for audience
Right.
avatars everywhere because she's like, listen, there's 1,000+ people out there who are watching this right now who want to know what the fuck's going on.
But also, they didn't do it just for exposition. Because a lot of times...
Which is my biggest pet peeve in writing.
Yeah,
is if you're going to do exposition, you better be serving a purpose.
Exactly,
And she's
and
like,
that
bro,
totally
we
was.
need to get this
and it
off.
fit her character amazingly.
Yes.
Carry it.
So
I love you, Martha.
and Martha keeps coming back. She shows up in Torchwood for a few episodes. She comes back at the end of Donna's season.
Yeah. Oh, there's a big old team up there.
We'll talk about that. And yeah, so Martha is just a phenomenal companion. And in some ways
Underrated.
probably.
I do want to play devil's advocate here.
All right.
There's some problems with the Martha situation. Martha's love interest with the Doctor seemingly comes out of left field. It seems as though it kind of takes away from the strength and independence of her character, which she redeems in the end, I think.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there are certain weaknesses to her in that I feel like the writers were also kind of mourning Rose.
I could see.
Probably. For the new series, Rose was a 2-season companion. She was our bridge from Eccleston to Tennant.
Right.
And in turn, the Doctor's bridge through his latest regeneration.
Yeah.
Which is always kind of traumatic for the Doctor.
Right. One of the things that makes it work is, and I may have mentioned this back in the previous episode.
Before you went to the bathroom, yeah.
Right. Troughton, the initial intent of the writers was for Troughton to play the Doctor very similar to how Hartnell
we
played.
did talk about that.
Okay. And so when he said, "No, I think I'm going to do it this way," that was groundbreaking. You know?
Yeah,
And
it's
so
brilliant.
yeah.
Because
And
it's not
so
just a recast; it's a new character slash same character.
right. And so we have the same kind of transition here from Eccleston to Tennant. Tennant is quite different from Eccleston, where Eccleston is abrasive and salty. Tennant is cute and cuddly
And a little goofy.
and a little goofy.
Until the end of his season when he is the Time Lord victorious. And
Right.
then he gets a little rough. But so
Right.
we get out of Martha. Do we have
Right.
anything? Is there anything else about Martha? I mean, was it really that controversial?
Yeah. I mean, what you need to understand is that
People suck.
that's not quite where that sentence was going. What I was going to say is that fans of anything, have certain ideas about what that thing should look like.
Yeah.
Okay? And Doctor Who has always been really white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's in part because it's a product of the time that it showed up in.
Yeah.
Sure. Certainly.
Martha really pushed boundaries, just her existence as a companion.
Man.
Wow.
Which is kind of weird. To jump ahead a little bit, since we're kind of on this topic, when Tennant was leaving, the odds-on favorite for a lot of the bookies in England was Patterson Joseph to replace him. Patterson Joseph is a person of color, and he was generally considered to be the odds-on favorite. Like, they stopped the bookies, the betting houses stopped accepting bets.
Wait, are there really betting houses for who's going to be the next Doctor?
There are bet.
You know what? I would not
Betting
surprise
culture is huge in England.
Really?
People will bet on anything.
How funny.
Yes, and so Patterson Joseph was the kind of the odds-on favorite to be the 11th Doctor.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with Patterson Joseph, he's actually in season 9, Eccleston's season rather.
Oh.
Yeah, and on the Satellite One, the game show satellite, he's
But the woman from the
weakest link.
The weakest link.
Yeah.
Right. He's on the weak. He's the other one on the other dude on the weakest link.
Oh, okay.
But he was one of the things that made people think that, hey, here's the guy that was probably going to replace the Doctor. He was in an adaptation of Neil Gaiman's novel Neverwhere.
Yeah.
He played the Marquis, and who has similar character traits to the Doctor. So a lot of fans viewed the Marquis as sort of a tryout role for the Doctor.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, as the rumor started to gain circulation and strength, the white supremacist movement in England was
Not happy.
It was repulsive.
Oh, man.
It was gross.
Yeah.
You know, the bitterness and the bile and just the repulsive
Behavior.
racism.
Yeah.
Let's call it what it is. The repulsive racism
Bullshit.
was disgusting.
Yeah.
You know, and he ended up not getting the role. We'll talk about that when we get there.
Right.
So
there's this problem with Martha that existed, but, you know, generally speaking, like those of us who aren't, you know, whose heads aren't up our asses with racism, were, you know, those of us were able to appreciate Martha for what she was and how she was as a companion.
right, because she's different from Rose. Rose was a working class girl.
Yeah, she worked in
She worked in a
convenience
shop.
store. Yeah,
She worked in a
like
shop.
in clothing stores.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Martha goes through her season,
Yes,
and she's a doctor. She's fabulous. We love her. And people are toxic and gross.
and she starts to realize that her relationship with the Doctor is not healthy for her.
No.
Right.
Because she recognizes that she is, or at least thinks that she's in love with him. She loves him, and but she sees that he is still hung up on his ex, i.e., Rose.
Rose. And she's gone through some serious stuff because the family,
Right?
that whole arc was really, really tough on her, where she basically was treated like a lesser human because of both the time and the status that she had to have in order to watch over the Doctor. Wherein she became like
You're
the
talking,
main
and
character.
you're talking about the Family of Blood arc. Yes,
The family, not her family, the Family of Blood.
the Family of Blood arc is a two-parter where the Doctor and Martha are on the run from these intergalactic bounty hunters.
Yeah.
And they take refuge in
06, I think.
No. It's pre-World War, just before World War One.
The Archduke
1913.
Yeah.
It's 1913 in England, and they are at a pretty typical English boarding school. The Doctor his Time Lordness has been submerged.
Kind of hidden away.
Is he John Smith?
He is John
John
Smith.
Smith.
He is okay. So
And
this
Martha-
point, he's not just pretending to be John Smith. He actually thinks he's John
is.
Smith.
Actually believes he is John Smith.
He's falling in
and
love with a
Which,
teacher.
we'll give a little bit of background to John Smith. Whenever the Doctor has to give himself a new name.
Yeah, anytime he has to be a human, basically.
Yeah, a regular human, a regular jack off, as Nathan Explosion would say. He uses the most colorful, name ever of John Smith.
Super creative.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
What I like about this
Good
arc
imagination.
also is that it's really cool to see just how dedicated Martha is, because Martha goes into the school and acts as a cleaning lady.
She's a domestic.
She's a domestic for sure, even though she's a doctor.
Yeah.
And it comes up at one point where she's like, listen, I know medicine and you're an idiot. Like, she eventually can't take it anymore. Yeah. But she's treated poorly because of her race, which...
And she's treated poorly by the doctor.
Even the doctor.
Because he doesn't know her.
He doesn't know her. Which makes it 10 times worse for her also, because he doesn't remember Rose. Which means that he's able to move on and go be interested in somebody. And the first person he decides to be interested in is some tart working at the school.
Let's not say tart, because she's not.
No, she's not.
Someone's a little bitter.
Anyway.
How could you forget Martha?
Martha, Martha, Martha.
Anyway, he's off in love with this very nice other teacher woman. But Martha never even enters his consciousness as somebody who's an option, because he's just some 1914 British man.
Yeah.
And not only is there the ethnicity question, there's the class issue.
Right. That was a huge part of that.
And that episode leads to like some really dark spots also regarding like what happens in World War I with the amount of kids that die in World War I.
Yeah.
Like, that episode is really, really beautiful. But then it leads to, like, that's one of the last arcs for Martha.
Right.
Yeah.
Before she's finally like, oh.
Before we get into the John Saxon stuff,
Right.
which is and John Saxon is the kind of the overarching subplot for Martha's season, and we won't get into that except to say that it's pretty badass once it finally stands revealed.
I watched those episodes with my roommate. As I told you, my roommate was the one who got me into Doctor Who, Craig. And Craig, who he sent me a message the other day with 4 fists. And, and I'm like, bro, it has been like 4 years since we watched this together, but like even now he wants to do it. Man,
I actually
it'll make sense to you later for those of you who haven't seen it.
Yeah.
when I
You're in for
when I'm given my vocab quiz in my college prep class, there have been times where I don't know if the mic picked that up, but
I'm sure it did.
okay. But and I can always tell who the Whovians are because they all look up and they're like, "What?
what?
Like, you son of a bitch."
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, so Martha leaves.
Martha leaves
on
and
her own accord.
on her own terms, and her position is like, "Look, I had this friend and she was into this guy, but this guy wasn't really into her, and I kept telling her, why are you hanging around waiting for this guy?" And she never really got over him. But I realized, I'm turning into my friend, and
I don't like
you are clearly not whatever your problems are. I can't, I'm clearly not what you need to get over them.
Yeah.
And so I'm out.
Yeah.
You know,
she did.
Yeah.
She did. And so then we go into the next Christmas special,
which is Voyage of the Damned.
Voyage of the Damned.
With special guest star Kylie Minogue as Astrid Peth.
Yes.
And here is where we get Wilf again.
Is he in that episode?
Yes. Because remember...
very briefly, yes.
Yes, because remember, the Doctor and Astrid transport down to London, and the Doctor's like, oh, it's going to be packed, it's going to be busy, don't wander off.
Because Christmas.
Right, because Christmas, and they get down there, and the place is empty. And they're like, the Doctor's like, this is not how it's supposed to be. So he goes over to the news agent, and it's Wilf. And he's like, hey, where is everybody? He's like, well, where you been? It's Christmas. And the Doctor's like, yeah. And Wilf says, well, where do you think they go? I mean, between aliens in the sky and, killer robots and starships and...
we don't hang out on Christmas.
We don't hang out in
stuff
London.
Keeps happening there because you keep having Christmas specials.
So...
BBC. Shit.
So we get the Voyage of the Damned, and it is it's an awesome story.
It's
so much
wonderful.
fun.
It's fun.
And you're so excited because you're like, I don't know who this gal is, but I don't know that I've seen the Doctor this excited to be hanging out with a new person since Rose.
Yeah.
And you're really excited.
Right. And he's already talking about come with me, come travel, come see the stars.
Chemistry. He's like, I know this is.
And he finally sees a future with a companion beyond Rose and beyond missing Rose.
Right.
Which he's still trying to get over.
For reasons that we're not going to talk about, it doesn't come to play out that way. Which then takes us to the return of Donna. Donna Noble.
Donna can't handle regular life anymore.
Partners in crime, exactly. We see
one of the most adorable Doctor Who villains ever.
Right, the adipose. Well, one of the things I love about this episode, that was really good. Well done. One of the things I love about this episode is that it's kind of madcap. It's because there's Donna and the Doctor keep crossing paths but just missing each other. They're looking in the wrong direction and so on. But Donna is, like you said, she can't handle regular life. She regrets not choosing to go with the Doctor.
Right. Which is really cool because we had an entire, she comes back and you're like, wait a minute, Runaway Bride lady?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
Right.
And again, that's that long game. And I don't know if they
that wasn't the original plan. The original plan was for her to just be the one-off.
Yeah. Right.
But then she's like, I can make some time in my schedule. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. Maybe we should do that again.
And it is the origin of one of the best memes to come out of Doctor Who, which is David Tennant leaning over a cubicle wall very excitedly.
Yes. Yeah. And when they finally connect in the episode, it's hilarious.
So good.
And we get to the end of the episode and they have their conversation about, hey, maybe I could come with you. And the Doctor's like, I'm just looking for a mate. You meaning using mate in the colloquial British term to mean a pal, a friend, a homie. Donna misinterprets that as a mate, like wah 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 wah.
So this is a podcast, but you know what he was doing.
Yeah. And
Donna was not about that.
Right. She is not here for that. She's like, whoa, spaceman. And he's like, no, a mate, a homie, like a friend.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, well, in that case, here. And she opens the boot of her car because that's the trunk.
Yeah.
And she's got her suitcases, her hat boxes. She's ready to go. She has clearly been looking for the Doctor for a while. He's like, what the hell is all this crap?
She's like, shut up, let's go.
Let's go.
And there's something really cool about Donna because Donna's theme, every companion has their own kind of theme, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And Donna's theme is so light and airy and playful that the whole show kind of becomes more of a comedy than it was with Martha or with Rose.
But she's such a great comedian.
Right.
And she's hilarious. But then the first thing they do is they take her to Pompeii to watch the world end, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And
which Karen Gillan is in that episode, who becomes a companion later on.
Yes.
Separate character.
We'll come back to that too. But one of the things I love about Donna's season is that there is no romantic interest from her at all.
And that is straight up from the beginning. That's put out there. She's like, I ain't into you. Like, I'm here to get out of just escape and
she in some ways she's got a similar life to Rose. She
works for a temp agency and she gets moved from place to place.
And she's looking for something,
a lot of clerical.
Yeah, and she's looking for something bigger in her life. And she recognizes after she lets the Doctor kind of get away in the Runaway Bride, she's like, oh, damn, maybe that was the wrong choice.
And she recognizes also that the Doctor is also good for her. Which is also recognized by her grandfather, which is we've been bringing up for a while.
Wilfred Mott.
Wilfred Mott at one point even says, no, she's better because of you.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I know I mentioned
it's too early, man.
I know I mentioned this before I went to the bathroom, but I'm going to mention it again. Wilf, this is Wilf's second go around with Doctor Who.
Right.
Because remember, he played the male lead in the second of the Peter Cushing Doctor Who movies.
Which we will talk about briefly when we get to Stephen Moffat, because we're still in Russell T Davies' list.
Yes.
Right.
But there's some interesting things that have developed with that.
Yes. So,
Wilfred
We're getting there.
and Donna are related.
yes.
And
Donna is Wilf's granddaughter, rather.
granddaughter, yeah.
And it's interesting because Wilf was not originally intended to be that recurring character.
Right.
Okay. What happened is in The Runaway Bride, we don't see Wilf at all.
Right.
He's not there.
He's not the wedding.
We have Donna's mother, who is just a harridan, a shrew. She's a terrible person. Not as bad as Martha's mom, but still
She's a
pretty
terrible person
terrible.
in that she's kind of clueless, not that she's an evil
No, she
human
treats
being.
Donna like crap.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she's not, the Ra's al Ghul of their universe.
But we also
With actual, literal, Lazarus situations.
that was a terrible analogy. But anyway, we also have Donna's father.
She's very evil.
We also have Donna's father. But between the Runaway Bride and Donna returning to the series, the actor who played died.
Oh.
Yeah. And so since they had already had Wilf make a couple of appearances, they brought him in as
Surrogate.
as the male figure.
Yeah.
You
As
know?
Donna's mother's father.
He shows up several times over the course of that season.
There we are. So, Wilfred shows up. He's now officially a major character. Well, a minor character, but a major part of Donna's life.
Right.
We go through Donna's season,
Which is great.
which is just a great season. I mean,
And it was with how heavy and dark-ish the previous season was with Martha. It's a nice.
it's nice, but then as comedic and as fun and as light as it was, it still ended
had
in
that-
one of the darkest send-offs with Donna leaving. It was really,
It was brutal.
and it's not. I mean, I guess it could be worse, but Wilfred definitely doesn't make it any easier. No. And
Well,
That was
the sad thing is that it's kind of out of left field. Because the last two episodes, The Stolen Earth and Journey's End, things look dark initially, but man,
the Lost Moon of Poosh.
right. Well, but it's also a reunion of sorts because we're getting down to the end. We know that Tennant is coming down to the end of his time.
yes.
Russell T Davies is coming down to the end of his time as showrunner. And so
There's a lot of changes coming up, and so they're not going to end with just a.
But they bring
dull
back
couple
characters
episodes.
from the very beginning of Tennant's run. They bring back characters from the beginning of Eccleston's run.
Yeah, they
Right.
tie everything together.
they bring back Rose. They bring back
Basically, anything
Martha,
Davies
Jackie,
had
Jones.
a hand in,
right.
he tied up.
Exactly.
He brought everybody back
Amazingly.
in. And he got and we got a second David Tennant.
Right.
Yeah.
And as we send all these other companions off for a final happy ending,
Yeah.
and then
Some bad stuff goes
and then bad shit happens. Right. And
What's the binary? Once again, a human is put into a situation where they have to handle what the Doctor handles regularly, and they can't. Much like the way Rose had to in the beginning, in the end of her first season.
Right.
Dawn is put in that same situation,
Yeah.
and then we get four full movies basically.
get
They're
4
solid, hour 20,
Long
hour 30.
episodes.
right, because Tennant knew that hey, it's time for me to go, or felt that it was time for him to go. One of the things that
It's what, third or fourth
Even though he
season?
didn't want to.
Fuck
you. God damn it.
Sorry, guys.
It was Patrick Troughton who kind of advised John Pertwee, hey, 3 seasons, man. Don't stay too long.
Yeah.
Tom Baker stayed 7, and as I understand it, he had typecasting issues, and so Tennant does his 3rd season, which is the season with Donna, but they're not. He wants to stay, but he also has the opportunity to play Hamlet for the Royal Shakespeare,
Theater.
the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Yeah.
So he does.
Is that good?
And so
You know by now.
in order to accommodate that, instead of another season, they do these 4 kind of standalone film episodes.
Very similar to how they do Sherlock.
Kind
Hour
of,
and a half.
yeah.
A much
3, 4
shorter,
episodes.
a mini series, if you will.
Basically.
Right. So you've got The Next Doctor, which is
That is a great
that's a great episode.
It doesn't make it makes noise. See, Sonic.
Right. And you've got Planet of the Dead with Michelle Ryan playing Lady Christina de Souza. That's the bus episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my actual least favorite David Tennant episode, but many people like that one.
I thought it was fun. The Waters of Mars,
Love the Waters of Mars.
that was
That's when
good.
you see
which
that.
is brutal. That's where we get the Time Lord victorious and kind of the 10th Doctor realizing, hey, I'm not the survivor. I'm the winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where he's like, oh, damn, I've kind of gone too far here.
Yeah.
We're not going to spoil that for you.
There's a common
Great
recurring
character
theme
arc.
in Doctor Who, though, much in the same way that Star Trek has the Prime Directive, Doctor Who has fixed points in time.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Doctor regularly says, and this comes up in the first episode with Donna as an official companion, there are fixed points in time.
I can't change.
I can't change
They're
this
gonna
because
happen.
it's just the way it goes. No matter what I do, the world's going to go this way, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
And the Time Lord Victorious is the point where he's so far removed from all of his companions and everything that this is what happens. And this is a recurring theme that we see later on in other seasons too.
Right.
When he's away.
The Doctor needs a companion. He needs someone to ground him, to keep him grounded.
Because
and to
he's a little too powerful.
Right. I just sometimes wish it wasn't a contemporary young British woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a separate.
We'll get into something similar with how they are casting the Doctors.
Right.
And a big change with when Capaldi takes over. But again, we'll
Right.
get there when we
We'll
get
come to there.
Right.
And then, so after the Waters of Mars, we have the End of Time, which is the.
Is that where we bring in, what's his name as President? Lord President?
Yes, Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton.
Yes, as Rassilon.
Rassilon.
Now, one thing that we forgot to mention within the you kind of it's been alluded to twice, once from you, B. Rom, and once from you. When Donna goes to Pompeii with the Doctor,
Yes,
we see real quick. We see you mentioned Karen Gillan, Brian.
Yep.
Whom we will see again soon.
Very soon.
As,
Also plays Nebula in Guardians of the Galaxy and the
yes,
Avengers.
Yep.
and we see Peter Capaldi as our marble merchant,
Yes.
whose name escapes me at the moment. But that becomes relevant once he
way
takes
they
over
tie
as
that
12.
back.
Yeah, that was
so great.
Very brilliant. So,
Colin.
I don't know why I said very brilliant. That's not really a thing. You're either brilliant or you're not. And in this case, I was
very-
not.
He was, however.
He was, yes. I was not.
So was I.
Anyway, yeah. So
So we get to the end of time.
the end of time, we get Wilfred back
We get Wilf back,
in his
And I get-
strongest companion.
and I get shattered into a million
Everybody does.
pieces.
So, like, saying I don't want to go is bad, but it's the
This
worst
is
thing in the world.
So this is a podcast, and Bryce in action.
And that's
saluted.
that's not even a proper British salute.
Yeah, he does this one. There's that great moment where the TV talks to Wilfred, and she's like, "Yeah, you were a soldier. You served in World War II, but you didn't kill anybody." And Wilfred's like, he's offended, but also like
He's
a little hurt because he
he's
knows that it's
offended
kind
by
of a
that.
little, because he knows she means it as an insult, but he also is like, "Excuse me, you say that as if it's a bad thing."
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a beautiful testament to who Wilfred is as
Yeah.
a character.
Hell yeah.
And it's so
How
subtle.
good he is.
And
Yeah,
he's
he's
not
like-
really necessarily a companion, but damned if he wasn't one of the
man.
best companions
Yeah.
of the show so far.
If Wilfred just came back for another episode, which would be wonderful.
How awesome would Capaldi and Wilfred have been?
I
my
would have
God.
loved that like it would have been like Grumpy Old Man. Can I just get that special
Grumpy old Time Lords? Yeah.
Grumpy Old Time?
Well, that was kind of the Christmas special we got, wasn't
I
it?
suppose so.
yeah.
So
The one that you didn't
Wilfred
see yet,
comes
so.
in, and we close up
we close up
a weird loose end we didn't know we had, which is the Saxon story.
Yeah.
right, and
Which is one of my favorite things about Russell T Davies is that he ties up loose ends that you kind of forget about.
Yo, totally.
right
Going back
and
season.
Tennant leaves on probably one of the strongest notes. We get a final goodbye with all the companions. We kind of see where they are,
Flashbacks,
including
Fantastic.
right, including tying in some things from previous Christmas specials.
Yeah.
You know, and we get
I mean, because this is a send-off for Tennant, but it's also a send-off for Russell T Davies.
Yeah.
right, exactly, and so we get.
We didn't mention the library.
Oh, with
Oh, do you want to talk about that? We probably need to.
We need to talk about this. Okay, so we get a proper send-off, but
Yes.
before these movies, there is a 2-part special. No, who's in that? Doesn't he have a companion in that episode, or is he alone?
Yeah, it's Donna.
He has Donna in those episodes.
Donna is
okay,
in.
so there is a
So
little...
we have the Silence in the Library 2-parter, and this is where we get introduced to River Song, played
Dr.
by
River Song.
Alex Kingston. And I will tell you for free. Do I need to say anything more?
No,
than
you're
that?
good, man.
Okay.
You really...
Yeah.
Dave really loves
Nailed
his
it.
Alex Kingston. There's a picture of her in his lunchbox.
Okay, when you say it like that, it makes me sound like some kind of pervert.
Or a 12-year-old, one of the two, which I suppose are kind of not mutually exclusive.
Have you talked to the average 12-year-old? Yeah. Okay.
You know me, just, hey, are you 12? Let's have a conversation. Your face is so red.
To be fair, that's not even the strangest thing you've ever said.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You didn't really say that, though. You just kind of...
Carry on.
All right, so we got River
Anyway,
Song
so we
coming
get
out.
River Song, Alex Kingston comes in.
Yes. And
She has this finality to...
well,
to
she
what's going on.
has. She clearly knows the doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
she says as much.
She says so, but he doesn't know her.
And she also has something that we have never seen anyone else have. And that is that she has her own sonic screwdriver.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're like,
What
this...
the fuck? Yeah.
This is so
She's not the Doctor.
because your first thought is, oh my god, is this another Gallifreyan? Is this another Time Lord?
Yeah.
And you don't really know where she's coming from, but she knows something that the Doctor doesn't.
She knows a lot of something.
And she whispers something to the Doctor that puts a look on his face that is absolute, like it's this beautiful combination of like fear and realization and doom and
Uncertainty.
uncertainty. Like
Which he's never had before. He's always,
He's always the smartest guy in the room.
yeah.
he's got this confident attitude.
And that's something that River Song provides that no other companion really can. Is that
Right.
she can be the smartest person in the room. And when she's not, it's almost like, wait, something's wrong.
Something's not right here. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and the Library 2-parter was written by Stephen Moffat.
Yes.
Which Moffat's been around since the
who's
first or second season of the
Yeah, he had written
Whoboots. Yeah, made it happen again.
Well, Moffat's going to be the new showrunner.
right?
And he's written for Eccleston. He's written
Yeah.
for Tennant.
He's been around, so he's not
Yes.
he's not a newcomer. By
And
any
he had
means.
written stuff during the Dead period.
Moffat is he's a legacy writer for sure.
Oh, definitely.
At this point. And he writes these beautiful episodes. The concept of the library is brilliant. It's very high science fiction.
There's also one of my favorite episodes was the fireplace episode.
The Girl in the Fireplace.
The Girl in the Fireplace.
Fireplace. Is that a
Spaceship.
Moffat episode?
Yeah,
Oh man,
Yeah.
you just missed her.
yeah, and that was it was brutal, and it was
Yeah,
well
Doctor
written.
Who has a lot of like really sad, heartbreaking goodbyes.
I just brought this
but the-
down.
Which
Shit.
we bring those come back too.
Yeah,
Those little like what I like about because we've discussed before in between us that I have some issues with Moffat, but one of the things that I do really like is that many of the things that he introduced in Russell T Davies runs, he does bring back. He brings the Girl in the Fireplace characters back in Capaldi's first episode. The mechanical people.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't bring the Vashta Narada back, but he does bring River Song back, obviously. But
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
The creatures that they're worrying about in the library. Hey, who turned out the lights? Hey, Who turned out the lights? Hey, who turned out the lights? Like, there is like expert uncanny valley like moments of like, this makes stop repeating, stop it, you know? And he's very, very good at that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, River Song's very important, but that episode has so much going for it, just as far as like a really quality episode of Doctor Who. And I feel like if you're going to start, even with 11, because many people start at the 11th hour, which we're about to talk about. Yeah. But I think you really owe it to yourself to watch those 2 episodes to see at least a little bit of where Tennant's coming from. Yeah. You know, where 11 comes from and where Tennant, you know, took it.
Well, so are we good on the library?
Yeah.
I think we're good on the library.
Yeah. So a little intro. We'll build up more on that as we go along.
So during the end of time, we have our regeneration sequence. Tennant regenerates into Matt Smith.
Yep. And it takes
the TARDIS
10 minutes of some heartbreaking shit.
Yes. The TARDIS.
I'm going to drink a little bit right now.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Let's do this.
You know,
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
I want to go. Which really sucks if you haven't. Well, there's a certain movie that's out right now where
I don't want to go.
I don't want to.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to talk about it.
I'm gonna punch all you dudes in the nuts if you don't shut up.
It's
Hit the button.
Come on, Cody. Today is not a day today.
Yeah. Fuck you.
God. Anyways.
This is TARDIS. I don't feel so good.
God damn it. I need more booze.
I hate you. Anyway.
Well played, sir.
Anyway, so David Tennant has a regeneration. It is.
He regenerates into Matt Smith. The TARDIS is
a wreck.
In shambles.
in shambles.
Which is a common thing. The TARDIS doesn't handle the regeneration.
Look, the thing about the regenerations is it is a particularly
It's a violent kind of thing.
Yeah, it is a violent.
It is unnatural.
You
and
explode.
I think it is unnatural in its own way.
The Time Lord explodes.
Even for Time Lords. It's a cheat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
that's fair.
I think that's a big factor in it. I
Well,
mean,
but it's not.
Bit,
it's not this violent in the classic series,
right?
And so I don't know, Time War.
Mm-hmm.
Time
War. There's only one of them.
Yeah, but anyway, there's a violence to these regenerations that completely fucks up the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and behind the scenes, of course, it's a convenient excuse to redesign the TARDIS and blah blah.
Something fresh.
Both the interior,
Right.
which is bigger on the inside than the outside,
Right.
And the exterior, which
Sometimes.
Matt Smith's is not a clean TARDIS, is it? Is his the clean one?
What do you mean a clean one?
One of the doctors has a filthy, damaged, broken down, wood is decaying TARDIS.
I don't know.
There is a newness to 11's TARDIS that is represented in both color, and the badge is back on, and it's like the exterior changes per doctor as well.
Which is kind of cool. I dig that.
It happens. It's a thing.
Yeah. So, which kind of fits in with the theme of we have a new doctor, we have a new showrunner,
We have a new interior,
New companions.
Companion
at first.
We'll get in there but and in fact, I just rewatched the first episode of
You're
Matt
Scottish
Smith's
fry something.
That whole sequence with the food is fantastic, and I love it.
One of the best.
And it always gets cut. It always gets trimmed down because the 11th hour was one of those extended episodes. Yeah. Extended by about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. And on subsequent rebroadcasts, they still have to fit it into the regular time slot.
Right.
And so they cut out that. They cut out the bit with the apple after Amy has grown up.
The apple's such a big deal.
It's such a huge thing.
Because it's one of those instances, much like when Rose goes away for like a year, you know, except like it gives you something that I don't think many people... It makes you appreciate something about Amy Pond that I don't think a lot of people really give her credit for, and that's the fact that she was kind of crazy for like 12 years of her life.
Yeah.
Where everyone was like, there is no madman in a box.
Yeah.
There is no crazy guy coming in and taking over your kitchen. That never happened. You're insane, Amy. Yeah. And she's kind of ostracized.
Yeah.
And by the time the doctor comes back, she kind of like talked herself out of it. Like, okay, maybe I did see some stuff. And then, boom, he's back. She's like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, 11th hour. Matt Smith shows up. We have a new doctor.
He's trying to find his new clothes. He's kind of trying to fit.
He's like, I'm going to rebrand right now. And he knows, like, he kind of knows the shtick, you know? And as an audience, we kind of know the shtick,
but
too.
then also
so
because there's the new writing and the new everything, the show itself takes on a new tone.
And this is
It's
where
more modern.
And they get a huge boost in budget. Like,
big time.
The camera work,
you can tell that.
The camera work, the set work, the production design,
special effects,
the special effects, especially
the practical effects,
and everything. This is where the show really takes off internationally. I mean, it had been a hit in England. It was becoming a hit here, but man, it's
underground. But now it's starting to come
exponentially.
Yeah, this is the point when we start inviting doctors to San Diego Comic-Con with the reg.
And they get to Hall H.
Yeah, they do. Yep. Which, for those of you who don't know, Hall H is the
biggest
room
the
for panels.
5,000 seats.
Yeah, and people wait for days.
Yep, that line goes from the convention center, like exposition floor, all the way
outside around the perimeter, and they'll cut off the line. Like, no, you can't. You guys can't sleep out here for 2 days. Like, we cut it off.
They're like, this is for a safety concern.
That's how big it got.
Yeah.
So we have, and we of course, again, just like with Russell T Davies, we have an overarching subplot, the cracks in time. We have a companion in Amy who, even though, like B-Rom said, she kind of talked herself out of believing in the doctor, is still obsessed with him.
Yeah.
To the point where she's throwing her game at him. And again, the doctor's like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, because again, alien, human.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a certain, and they keep that going for a long time. There's a certain, like, wait.
Flirtatious kind of thing going on.
Who are you into, lady? Like, even after Amy eventually comes to a point where she has a child, there's a certain, like, wait a minute. Who's the father?
There's a certain there's a degree of uncertainty as to where Amy's true affections lie,
right?
Because we meet her boyfriend Rory in the 11th hour.
That's it. Doesn't believe it's him. He thinks it's the other guy.
Right. And that the doctor rather does not believe that Rory is the boyfriend. He thinks that it's Handsome Jeff, whom we've met earlier.
I wish Handsome Jeff had been had been the person in Let's Kill Hitler. How great would that have been?
Oh well, the thing that I like about the exchange was like, what about Handsome Jeff? Rory's response, oh, him, okay, so clearly
Roman,
poor Rory.
Poor Rory. And poor Rory for many other reasons than Handsome Jeff.
Many
right. And it's, but we get Amy over the course of that first season. We get Amy's growth too, as she comes to realize, no, actually, I do love Rory. Rory's my jam.
Man.
Yeah,
Rory's my guy.
Well, there's a great moment in what's the episode called?
Amy's Choice?
No. Blank. When a Good Man Goes to War.
It's called When a Good Man. It's called A Good Man Goes to War.
What's the phrase before that though? Something. When a Good Man Goes to War.
Angels Run.
Angels Run?
No, Demons Run.
Demons Run. Yeah. So
that's not the name of the episode.
No. But there's a location in A Good Man Goes to War called Demons Run.
Right.
And it's because of the phrase "Demons run when a good man goes to war." And many people within the fandom say, like, the good man is not the doctor in that case.
Right.
It's Rory. Because Rory shows up
like a fucking
badass. And he's like, he like looks down the most advanced iteration of a Cyberman that has been evolved or upgraded that we've ever seen, and is like, you tell me where my wife is because I
have
got the doctor
two
over there and
questions.
I'm running the show right now.
Yeah.
And
Dude,
yeah,
I
have two questions.
Yeah.
What are they?
Where's my wife?
Where's
my
my
wife?
wife?
And shall I repeat the question?
Shall I repeat the
Shall I
question?
repeat the
As
question?
shit blows up in the background
and he's
behind
just
them.
destroying shit. Like we are taking
doctor, but he
care
takes, like-
of business. Because
damn,
the
he's
doctor
so
at this
good.
point is like Rory's weapon. You know,
Yeah.
which is
Right.
such a cool thing because many people accuse the doctor of turning his companions into weapons.
Right. Well,
he won't do
and
it.
this is as we get into into the second
That's
season
a little
with
bit later.
Matt Smith.
Right. Sorry.
Right. That's
Rory
okay.
is great.
Rory's the fucking man. But just again, like that goes back to that writing of where the show's called Doctor Who, revolves around the Doctor, but his companions take such a huge
Amy and
huge
Rory
presence
really
in the
took
show.
center
But
stage in
in
that.
this season, these seasons that they were in there were like this was
Yeah.
almost their show.
Yes. And we get more River Song.
Oh yeah.
And some of the things that were alluded to in the library episodes with 10
Yeah. Get brought
start
up a
to
little
come to pass
Yes.
in the
in these episodes.
in
there's-
the Maze of the Dead
And there's so
sequence.
much going on. Like
Because then we
won't
start
spoil
really
everything.
exploring.
We start to get more of River Song in this first season with Matt Smith
Oh, yeah?
with the 11th Doctor.
Yep.
And some of the things that she alluded to or that were alluded to in the library episodes start to come to pass
Yeah.
in the Forest of the Dead episodes,
which
which we won't spoil for
we
you.
won't spoil.
But it does have the guy from Game of Thrones who plays what's her name? Who plays Daenerys's
the series.
guard
Oh,
or knight?
there are so many people in
Because Britain.
Britain. Everybody in Game of Thrones is in Harry Potter, is also in Doctor Who, and vice
Game of
versa.
Doctor Who
Thrones.
in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And
Crouch.
Game of Thrones.
Anyway,
There's so many, anyways. Lots of,
but
people,
lots of
but
great, and that episode
great
is
actors.
fantastic. Forest of the
Yes.
Dead.
And we see this is River's first appearance with the 11th Doctor.
Oh yeah,
And kind of sets things in motion that we're going to see, over the course of the remaining episodes of the
couple
season.
seasons.
For a
And-
couple of seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Right.
while there is like the crack in space and time and the eye patch lady, while those things start to show up repeatedly and you go, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? The overarching, what the hell is the deal with Rory? What the hell is the deal with River Song? Question is multiple
It's multiple
seasons.
seasons, multiple
11
arcs.
It is the 11 story.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. And their
partially
chemistry is
12.
fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
God, they're so good.
Yeah.
I still have not gone back and watched the River Song order
On
episodes,
YouTube.
which is something that I think everyone should realize also is that there is a specific order that River Song, because she is a time traveler herself, she experiences the story
Differently.
of Doctor Who in a very different order than
Right.
the Doctor
And that's
does.
part of the whole thing. I mean, semi spoilers, but not really at this point.
She makes that point
She alludes to it a
in the library episodes, so I don't think we're spoiling much. But
But it's very cool how that. I mean, that's such a new concept to do in a show or movie like that. Where
Not often do you see like two time travelers that are meeting each other repeatedly at different points in
time.
their own times.
right?
and one of the things, and I know that Stephen Moffat gets a lot of grief towards the end of his time as showrunner, but he keeps all of River's songs.
Oh, that's his.
That's his baby,
gold moment.
Yeah, yeah.
and he has to keep that going, kind of as on the fly, and keeps it all straight.
Yeah.
And by the way, Diaries of River Song, Big Finish episodes. She meets other doctors. They
Which
are
she alludes to in the show a
fantastic.
little bit.
Yes.
Does she meet Jim the Fish? Is there a Big Finish Jim the Fish episode
I
yet?
have not. I've only listened to the first season. I've not heard 2 and 3.
Now, does Alex Kingston come in for the Big Finish?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
How the hell are you going to have the Diaries of River Song without River
So
Song?
that's the great thing about these Big Fish audio dramas is that they bring in the original actors.
Yeah, they bring in
Yeah.
the actors.
and they mix and match.
Yeah.
And I haven't listened to them yet, but that just like
I've listened to a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I've listened to a bunch of the Eighth Doctor ones. I've listened to the War Doctor. I've listened to Diaries of River Song.
And the diary,
which just makes everything else, I'm sure, just on the TV show, just hit harder.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
which is what this show ends up doing.
And that's, I mean, and what is it? Our second or third episode, we talked about this. Like sometimes those ancillary, like outside exterior parts of a universe, like with Clone Wars to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like when those things can make things even better for you, like why not expose yourself to those things?
See, and that happened with, go a little slightly off topic, Infinity Wars. People were asking, hey, I haven't seen all the Marvel stuff. What should I watch to get ready for this movie? And due to certain scenes, I'm like, Spider-Man Homecoming. Yeah. Because it just strengthens that.
You need to know him, and you need to know how he is with
this bond with a certain character when a certain thing happens, and then I need to drink more right now.
Okay.
Anyways,
so we got Matt Smith, we've got Amy, we've got Rory.
Right. The Roman.
And Amy and Rory stay as companions for 2.5 seasons.
Yeah,
they are the longest. They are the longest tenured companions, and really, that's all one story.
Yeah,
you've got the season finales. The Pandorica opens,
but it's still
Pandorica opens
builds off of everything else that happened before.
Something borrowed.
Yes, exactly. It all ties together, and when we get to the end of their story, it is gut-wrenching.
It is the most brutal.
Yeah, I don't even want to tell you the name of the episode where they leave on because it's
right. We don't need to.
No, we don't need to. But I'll tell you, it is, and it's this great moment for both the Doctor and River.
Yeah,
as the Doctor, because there's this great scene in there.
They tie up
where the Doctor loses it. He's a mess, and River handles it for him. Yeah. As he's sitting there, a wreck on the ground, River just stares straight forward where she needs to be looking to make sure everything's going to be safe for him and for her. And that I don't think many people notice, but for those of you who know what I'm talking about or have seen that episode, like River doesn't look away.
No.
And it's a great testament to her because what she's losing too.
And it's every bit as painful for her as it is for the Doctor.
Now, have you seen the deleted scene where they deal with Rory's father?
Where they just storyboarded it? Yeah.
Rory's father, by the way, is
Mr. Weasley.
Mr. Weasley. He's fantastic.
Oh, man. The dinosaur episode was... So the last...
Dinosaurs on a spaceship. I just got a dinosaur Doctor Who book from... I think I might have gotten it at WonderCon.
Oh, cool.
No, I bought it at that used bookstore we found in Burbank.
That's right. You did. Yeah, we found it cool. Yeah. We bought all three of
the Cimarron and...
No, we bought all three of their copies of the Silmarillion.
Yeah, we did.
I bought one. I bought one for my roommate, Clay, who's super into Lord of the Rings and Tolkien universe and all that good stuff. And then Bryce bought.
Yeah. This old used bookstore is closing down after like 30-something years. And
he's retiring, not in the bad way. He's retiring.
50 years.
50 years.
50 years.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm going to retire. I'm going to not hang out at the store. I'm going to go explore.
Travel a little bit. Hang out with my family a little bit.
And we're like, yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Good for you, man.
Thanks for letting us, peruse your entire sci-fi and fantasy section.
Yeah.
As well as some script stuff. There was a lot of really cool stuff.
I was kind of bummed they didn't have
Star Wars some old Doctor Who books because...
Oh, nice.
I don't know why. I just have this... I haven't even gotten to read either of the ones I own yet, but I have this just love for these smelly old paperback Doctor Who books that have that great...
Paper smell.
Old paper smell.
That you can't get on a fucking Kindle.
No, you can't, Kindle users. Anyway...
But read your stuff how you should.
Read it how you need to. If you need to consume your media in any way you can, we don't judge you. You're missing on that smell.
Almost gatekeepy there.
It's a great smell.
Yeah. I'll get there. I don't care.
Anyway, so Matt Smith has Rory and Amy.
Yes.
They've really got a solidity as their...
That whole story arc was just...
Amy and Rory are just...
finished up beautifully.
And you have great moments because of you lose
3 seasons worth of solid storytelling, character-driven.
But you've
plot.
lost Rory before in ways that
And you're like, there goes Rory.
going.
Damn, that sucks.
You know,
but now
and
you're
I don't
like,
want to go into the details, but then there's like little moments in the background that you don't realize
until they bring it out, and you're like, son of a
Yeah.
bitch.
Moffat really,
That was at his
has
peak.
a lot more.
I concur.
A lot more skill in hiding things than I think many people,
Which I think he learned
including
on his
myself, have
role
given
with-
him credit for. Okay, so we've established very well that River and Amy and Rory are very much a major part of this particular
Doctor's
Doctor
story.
for sure. But there's also before we go all the way into the end game for this, because we haven't even started talking about Clara. I love Clara, and I know you don't. But before we get to that, I'd like to talk about.
We feel you on this.
Before we get to that, I'd like to talk about the Christmas specials, because I know you guys are really excited.
Special.
Well, since we talked about them with each of the other Christmas specials,
Right.
let's take a minute and talk about the Christmas specials here with the 11th Doctor. So at the end of the 11th Doctor's first story, after the Pandorica Open story, we have A Christmas Carol.
Right.
And it is
Those are so.
yes, it is. It's probably my favorite. It's tied for my favorite Christmas special.
That's fair. Yeah,
And I'll
me too.
bring up the other one later.
Right.
But it's Amy and Rory's honeymoon. I don't think that's too big a spoiler.
Hardly.
But it's just like Charles Dickens. It is a Christmas story.
Yeah.
You know, or a Christmas Carol rather.
Yeah.
And Michael Gambon, whom we know as Dumbledore, from the later Harry Potter movies,
Second.
Did you put your name in the goblet of fire?
was
Alita knows what I'm talking about.
brilliant as Kazran Sardik.
Kazran Sardik.
One of my favorite Doctor lines in the entire series. The Doctor has gone back and he's talking to young, like 10-year-old Kazran, and he says, "And what do boys say in the face of danger? What's that? Mummy." You know? And I just love that.
Within that same episode, there's another really great line, because isn't that the same episode wherein he says 900 years of time and space, and I've never met anybody who isn't important.
Yes,
That line.
It says so
Still
much
gets me.
about the Doctor.
And it encompasses everything, but also just like, yeah.
Also, in the Dickens regard, Dickens has an affinity for naming people based on what their character is. And Kazran Sardik is such a Dickensy name.
yes, it is. And
Dickensy name, it sounds like a freaking German dish.
the casting for the entire episode is magnificent.
Absolutely.
So there's that.
And it's by far, for me, one of the most Christmassy episodes as well.
Absolutely.
Because
It says so right on the tin.
Christmases.
Yeah.
And it's got this very, it's not just like, well, there's an invasion happening and there happen to be Santa Clauses.
No, it's very...
Like, it's tied with the other really super Christmassy one, which would be, which is weirdly not Christmassy though, even though it's got Santa Claus. So
Right.
We'll get there.
we'll get there.
Then after the 11th Doctor's second season, we get the Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, which is very much just like it sounds, a Narnia kind of
Yes.
kind of knockoff,
That was so good too.
which has another of my favorite lines. I'm not going to say it because I'm going to start crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to know. I don't know.
Okay, so the kind of the subplot, I'll give it.
War I?
Yeah, World War II.
Two.
The Doctor meets Madge Allwell, although Madge doesn't realize that she's met the Doctor. She's just some weird dude in a spacesuit.
Yeah.
Takes him to the police box. Whatever. Her husband is a pilot in World War II, and he
Yes.
dies just before the Christmas holiday. And she can't bring herself to tell her children, because how can you? How can you tell them something like that?
Yeah.
And
on Christmas, no.
On
Yes.
Christmas, exactly.
And so they're out to visit their uncle's house, and they're expecting the caretaker, and there's the Doctor.
There's Doctor.
He's
As he
tricked
does.
out the house. It's so awesome. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And Madge is losing her mind. She sends the kids out. She's like, we're leaving. Go wait outside. And she's like, look.
Sits with the doctor.
She tells him what's what. She's like, look, their father is dead and they don't know because I don't know how to tell them. And she's just tearing at him. He's like, and he says, how can they be happy? How can you let them be happy now when you know they're going to be sad later? And the answer, of course, is because they're going to be sad later.
Yeah. And you're just like,
God damn it.
that fucking line.
You have to let them be happy.
Wrecked.
Because
Yes.
they're going to be sad later.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And
that's just the doctor. That's the doctor.
yeah.
That hit home. That hit hard.
There's so many great lines.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the 11th Doctor is my favorite.
Same.
You know.
Oh,
And
he's my first, but also, like, just those lines. And there's, like, that's when I got into it. There's a lot of shit going on, like, my personal life going, and that just, everything just going on. You're just like,
I feel like the Doctor has something for everybody for a time in their life.
yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Eccleston's line, just this once, everybody lives.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I'm like, yes, please, just once.
Yeah.
You know, that was a really tough time for me too. Yeah. I love this show. Okay, next Christmas special. Before we all start bawling.
when Charlotte and I started dating, I dialed her in with 11.
For sure.
You know, and the relationship between the Doctor and River really resonated for us because, you know, she was still living in Illinois, and so we were having to travel and do a lot of telecommunicating.
A lot of time travel.
Yeah, and you know, so we
She was
we
in
understood.
prison and on a weird planet.
Right,
It was a weird thing.
the storm cage. We understood.
Charlotte was never in prison. We're good.
Charlotte was not in prison, although Illinois in the winter feels like prison.
So, anyway.
Sorry to our friends in Illinois. So yeah, so you're right. There is something there for something in the Doctors for everybody and for every time in your life.
Yeah.
So then we get to,
I want to hug Matt Smith.
dude.
We can't all be Paige and Deanna.
Right?
I will tell you, that dude will never buy a drink in my presence for the entirety of his life.
Nope.
Anyway, so we get to the next Christmas special, and it's the snowmen, and this one is unusual because it happens in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because it takes off right after the end of Amy and Rory's story, and the Doctor is grief stricken.
And he's been grief stricken for quite a while.
Couple thousand years, what it is?
Couple hundred years, I
So,
think.
Well, long enough.
chronologically, this is one of the longest running Doctors because he has been in the Matt Smith form for
Form of Matt Smith.
a hell of a long time. More than any other Doctor. It's been a couple thousand? Like, it's been a long,
I think he
long
winds
time.
up being somewhere between 1100 and 1400 by the end
and
of his
for
time.
a while, you don't know until about...
But they say, like, he's
They
been
will tell you,
grieving,
yeah.
grumpy, up above his Victorian London box for a while, because this is where...
Not hundreds of years, because the Paternoster gang, Madame Vastra, Jenny, and Strax.
I'm the clever one, you're the potato one.
Yes.
One of my favorite.
They know him, and they know he's there.
And they've been around for a while.
But I think he did a little traveling prior to
it sounds like he knew them
meeting
before.
that. Well, he met
Yes.
them before. Because that's not their introduction, is it?
No, they show up first in A Good Man Goes to War.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not
That's right.
But
He's
at that
part of
And
point,
her
True.
species shows up in Amy and Rory's, earlier in Amy and Rory's time period.
oh no, the Silurians are classic
around for-
monsters.
Yes, but they show up
Yeah.
for Matt Smith at least.
Right.
In that
They brought
time
him back
period.
around, yeah.
Right. Many of these characters, except for maybe the Silence,
Right.
are all old
And with
Doctor
the
Who
snowmen,
heroes.
we get
bad guys.
Clara
Yes.
again. This is actually the second time we've seen Clara.
Yeah, the first time we see her,
Was Asylum of the Daleks.
which is a brilliant concept.
Magnificent concept, magnificent execution of the concept. We're not going to talk anymore about it.
Nope.
Because we don't want to
give some
spoil
away, right,
anything.
some stuff.
However, see, I loved Clara there. Mm-hmm. And
I loved Clara when she showed up the second time too.
I did too.
The first half of her season was great.
No, okay.
Not according to
Sorry.
Mr. Ziegler here.
Okay,
Sorry, I will couch this as in my opinion.
cool. No, it's all good.
Okay.
That's what we're here
But
for.
when she shows up as Oswald,
Yeah.
and when she shows up as Clara in The Snowman,
right.
both are great.
Yes, that's
Yes.
The next episode after that, I believe,
The Bells of St. John
Bells of St. John,
was
was pretty good introduction
I dug
to
it.
a modern
Yes.
iteration
modern version.
of
That's
Clara.
right.
the problem with that, the second half of that season. At the end of The Snowmen, the doctor realizes, wait a minute, I've met her before. Okay. He doesn't recognize her when he sees her the first time because
He didn't see her.
But he knows her.
the voice
Right.
and the character.
Right. So he's like, well, that's impossible, So that's that second half of that season after the Snowmen is so focused on the whole impossible girl mystery and trying to unravel that that there's no actual development. She's just this cipher that he's trying to uncover.
Yeah, she's essentially a mystery and a prop.
Yeah.
She's a story element, less than a
I
character.
dug the first half, the second half, where it all just kind of
The problem with Clara's initial storyline is that she was essentially a promise of a good payoff, and she, as a character, and the show as a show, did not pay off that promise the way it was supposed to, the way we had hoped that it would. Not even that it did it in a specific way that we didn't like, but it was just that what it ended up being was just not
what it should have been.
Well,
what it was set up
could have been.
One of the things that I hated was that it kind of presents her as, I'm the best companion ever. I'm better than all the companions.
super
It really did.
I am like companion Zilla.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
like,
have heard you say companion Zilla about Clara more than once.
and
Tate would agree.
I know.
I feel like that's a disservice to all the other companions.
Rose, Martha,
Well,
Pons.
and the classic ones, because we see her.
We didn't even talk about Sarah Jane.
Ugh. Well, we talked about her a
little bit
before I went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
But but we see her in that episode, The Name of the Doctor, interacting with classic doctors.
Yeah.
And
Which
so,
was kind of a cool scene.
Which was kind of cool.
Very cool.
I love the
Except-
concept of the TARDIS finally not being able to be contained within the tiny box.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were a lot of good things
There's a
about
lot of
that
really good
episode.
elements about that episode.
Neil Gaiman
Right.
wrote that amazing episode with the TARDIS.
The Doctor's Wife.
Yes.
Yes. And
Back to Clara.
Back to Claire. That's why we don't like Claire all that. I'm okay with her. I don't like her.
she's just the companionest companion ever.
See, in that regard, I see where issues are, and it's exacerbated, unfortunately, by many episodes in her tenure where she kind of out-doctors the Doctor. And in some ways, it works really well. The one where the Doctor is stuck inside the TARDIS because the TARDIS is roughly the size of... Flatline. Because the Doctor's TARDIS is the size of a shoebox. And, he
can't get out.
He can't get out because his face doesn't even fit through the door. She's great in that.
I thought that was a fantastic episode.
The episode where she's on the train and she basically solves the mystery instead of the Doctor, you're like, well...
I didn't love it, but I liked
don't-
that aspect.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
But basically up until Danny and Missy come along, there's a certain
She's just
pushing
there.
of her where it feels like the show itself is trying to sell her harder than she needs to be sold, and unfortunately it does a disservice to what her character could have been.
Right.
Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay. I think that's fair.
That's fair.
I mean, because I am one of the few people who really love
Not to scare
Clara.
people away, but,
I loved Clara.
There are still a lot of good things about the Clara episodes.
Yes,
I don't
exactly,
want to.
yeah.
Hyde, in particular, I think is a standout, probably the standout of that second half of that season.
Which one happened? Which one's Hyde?
Hyde is the one where they show up in the 60s, the house with the psychic and the scientist. Okay.
Oh, right.
Okay.
That was a cool self-contained
such a-
episode. Yeah.
But again, it's all in service to this larger mystery because they solve the immediate problem, and then the Doctor takes the psychic aside and says, "Hey, what can you tell me about her?"
Yeah.
Indicating
Because
Clara.
he's like,
He's still
she's
trying to
familiar.
figure her
I
out.
don't know what's going on.
So I understand because the problem that Clara I think also encounters is that so many people were upset at
Amy
what
and
Clara
Rory
means.
when they left.
Well, yeah, with what? So they're still mourning Amy and Rory, which I think is why Martha has such a bad rap as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's hard to follow up those sorts of characters. But I think that the other thing is that whether Clara played it well, because a lot of people complain about Clara as a person, and I don't. And Tate is one of those people. Tate, I know, really doesn't like Clara as a character at all.
You mean Jenna Coleman?
Specifically about her performance, about Jenna Coleman's performance. But I never really had that big of an issue with her personality until it got to a point where I felt like she was cockier than the Doctor was about how to solve problems.
There's a few episodes.
Which, and then eventually I just kind of got tired of her in Capaldi's run.
Yeah, I think maybe she stayed ultimately she stayed longer than Amy and Rory.
Well, yeah, and I guess we'll speak about it now. She said she was leaving the show. They kind of wrote her off, and they're like, actually, and she's like, you know what, actually, I'll stay on a little bit longer.
Yes, boy, was I pissed off about that.
That was weird.
I think if you ignore her role in the overall story and how she relates there, you're kind of doing, you're turning a blind eye yourself, which admittedly I did. Mm-hmm. But I think if you can focus on the aspects of her personality when they really do shine, it makes those episodes a lot more enjoyable.
True. That's the big thing with the Doctor Who fandom these days. Is there's with those episodes post Amy and Rory, there's a lot of
split opinions.
Martha lasted one season, and frankly, she was the audience's rebound. And I think had Impossible Girl closed that storyline and maybe even come back to her later and given us a break from her, she wouldn't have received the amount of hate that she had. Yeah, but because we just continued to stick, it was like, no.
They're dragging it on.
We want to move on. You know, we did the Claire thing. Let's move on to someone else. And that's why I think everyone loves Bill.
Yeah.
But
Bill's got a lot going for him.
We'll get to Bill in a minute.
We're almost there.
So we get to the 50th anniversary, which is the end of Matt Smith's
Tennant
tenure.
Comes back.
Yeah, we this is where we get our time with the War Doctor,
our small Night of the Doctor,
our Night of the Doctor mini episode that we talked about earlier.
Beginning, yeah,
right, and we get.
There's a lot of things that happen.
And we get a brief explanation for what was going on when Tennant shows back up and he's got like the feather boa and he starts mentioning stuff that
wasn't it a lei?
I can't remember.
I think he's wearing a lei.
He might be wearing a lei.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
So he's talking to the Ood.
So can we just speak upon the 50th anniversary? Just that whole season, they had brand new Big Finish audio dramas.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We had a few documentaries. We had a few.
Yeah. Remembering the Doctor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I believe that was the year that we got an Adventure in Time and Space.
Yep. Yeah. That's when we got the Adventure in Time and Space.
Which is the story of how Doctor Who came to be.
Came about.
Right. And that's where we get David Bradley playing William Hartnell playing the Doctor.
Right? Yes. Who ended up reprising that role in an actual episode.
Later on, we'll get to.
We'll get there. We're almost there. But you know what? BBC in general went all out for the 50th anniversary, and it was fan-frickin-tastic.
They also had short stories featuring each of the Doctors.
Yeah, that's right.
And they had that little skit with the older Doctors that didn't get to be in the episode.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And they brought in some older Doctors into the 50th anniversary, not quite as themselves, but sort of.
Yeah, which was, it was so good.
There was a lot of great...
Yeah. This is a podcast, and
who knows? We're tapping our noses. It's fine,
but not for that.
But there were a lot of good things going on in that 50th anniversary special.
The fandom was excited for everything going on. There were some great episodes going up, leading up to it, give or take. You know, we just talked about the Clara stuff, but they were really gearing up for this.
And that 50th anniversary special was on the actual 50th anniversary of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Which I saw with a couple friends in the movie theaters.
Yeah, they broadcast it at home and into theaters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which was
huge.
It was so big.
We were in a theater in LA somewhere. And they had 3 theaters open, and it was sold out all 3 theaters.
Wow.
Which was freaking huge.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's so cool.
And so then we get to the end of the time of the Doctor.
Yep.
Right.
And then we go right into the Christmas special, the Day of the Doctor.
Day of the Doctor.
And that is the end of Matt Smith's run. It's the end of the 11th. And I thought that was really well done. And I even thought that Clara was not...
I liked her in that episode.
She was not terrible in that episode.
No.
I learned a lot of things I liked about her in that episode.
Yeah. Well, and that episode also does some really nice things in that it opens up some questions and discussions that really hadn't been discussed a whole lot. We always are wondering what's going on with Gallifrey, but like we really got that question.
We got some answers.
We got answers, but we also had a few questions not answered. But it was like, oh yeah, we still don't actually know with that episode. We had questions about the silence. They show up and like all of a sudden everything, because the Doctor's doing, we get the Doctor ages in a way that we have never seen a Doctor do within a season.
Because 11 has had to stay in one place.
Yeah.
In ways that he has not had to before.
Yeah, the Doctor becomes and so that's the thing is, while he spends somewhere between 50 to a couple hundred years hiding above Victoria and London above a cloud before he meets Clara the second time. In this, he stays in this city, this village.
This town.
Yeah. For, what is it? It's like somewhere like 500
Hundreds
years.
of years.
Hundreds of years.
Generations.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about being quiet. Grab the Swedish fish. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll eat it. Yeah.
Generations. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and say generations. Good.
That's okay.
But
he's there for a long time.
He's there for such a long time.
And the way they introduce that in the episode, and you kind of get that heaviness that he's still mourning Amy and Rory and everything that's gone on since then, and he's been through some shit. And he's just
that goodbye, honestly, I think wrecked me as much as Tennant's.
Oh yeah,
because of the surprise cameo at the end.
Yeah.
It was rough.
Oh yeah,
it was so rough. But you really see in that episode just how far he is willing to go, and to protect.
Oh yeah,
and it's so interesting because he protects humanity on such a I'm going to come in, I'm going to help you guys fix this very small black boxes problem, and then get the hell out.
Usually we see him working on the macro level.
Yeah.
Here
the Earth is under my protection.
Right here, this is very much a micro level.
Yeah. These two people are under my protection, and then stuff happens, and you're like, "Holy crap!"
And then that Handles.
Oh, Handles.
The TARDIS is messing up, and he's like, "Just pick a number."
Poor Handles.
Poor Handles. But the concept of Handles is such a great idea.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's such a good twist of what we're so used to.
Yeah.
And then we get Capaldi.
Yeah.
Which I also want to point out, there's a regeneration at the beginning of and at the end of the time of the Doctor.
Yeah.
And the end, they didn't get Eccleston on the episode, but the way they got Eccleston in the end was great. We have this brief flash of the eyebrows of Peter Capaldi, and you're like,
they tie everything.
Oh man!
Together.
And I thought for sure, like, oh shoot, we're gonna get Capaldi by the end of this episode, and then we didn't. And then the day the Doctor comes, and you're like, oh man, I was already ready to say goodbye. Now I'm not saying goodbye, but now I have to say goodbye, and I'm not okay.
Yeah.
But
those episodes were really well.
Then
written.
we get Peter Capaldi, who really stays in a sort of gray monotone color scheme for a while in those first couple of episodes.
The pissed off old man Doctor,
grumpy old man,
which I love.
Right,
but
and I thought was an outstanding contrast to the sort of bouncy Tiggery
Matt Smith
sort of Doctor that we had in Matt Smith,
and even a little bit in David Tennant as well.
Yeah. Younger, energetic.
Mm-hmm.
But Smith was a lot goofier.
Oh, totally.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Than Tennant.
Yes.
And so and I'm glad that they went with an older Doctor with Capaldi, because I feel like they needed to have that contrast.
I think they also needed to show his wisdom. He was an old man when he regenerated from Matt Smith into Peter Capaldi.
Yeah.
He
a couple thousand.
But I mean, he
15,
looked
16?
as an old man.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He was a haggard old man, and then he turns into a different, slightly better put together old man. Yeah. But what's really cool about him is that Peter Capaldi was not asked to change his Scottish accent. Right. Which David Tennant is very Scottish.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, he does a killer Macbeth.
He's also Scrooge McDuck on the new Duck Tales.
Yeah,
Yes, he is. And he's fantastic.
And Scottish.
Yes. But Peter Capaldi gets to stay Scottish. And I mean, we were insofar that we made fun of Scottish people in the beginning of 11. And now we actually have a full Scottish doctor. But admittedly, he's got a raw... Like, the first season's all right. The second season... There's 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 with
The
Clara.
first season was
okay.
It's got some moments. I actually really enjoyed a lot of it, but because that's the one where we still have Danny.
Yes, I loved Danny.
Danny Pink.
Danny Pink.
And the frustration between the Doctor and his problem with soldiers and his problem with war really comes out in that, because Danny Pink is a soldier.
A former soldier.
Yeah, a former soldier. And he holds it over him.
And Danny has his own issues with his time in the service.
Yes, for sure.
You know?
In Her Majesty's service.
Right. And
Which is some great writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we
Brought
get
up some new stuff.
We get this mystery of Missy.
Yeah.
And that is a wonderful payoff.
Which is cool.
Yeah, that season really comes to a nice close, but
it's brutal in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, it really is.
There's a point in that where they say one sentence where, like, it was the cremation sentence. They're talking about what all these people, and they hear this screaming, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that person's being cremated."
That's right.
And they hear that, and they're screaming, and it suddenly creates their heaven reality is altered. It's like, I don't like that you've just done that to my idea of cremation.
Yeah,
you know, that's a bold ass move. What ends up going on with Missy is brilliant.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
You know, and then when Missy shows up, spoilers. Missy shows up again in season 2, at the end of season 2, you know, and then she has that moment with the plane in the sky and all that. You're like, how the hell did you get out of this one?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's not a few things in that second Capaldi season I liked.
Maisie Williams, honestly,
but Maisie Williams came on, also known as Arya Stark.
Yes.
And she made quite a few appearances, was definitely a major player in that season.
Yeah.
Which I loved, but everything else I just...
Even still, those episodes were very slow.
There were a lot of things that I liked in those episodes. Unfortunately, Clara was not hardly any of them.
No, it was very frustrating.
They
and I think it was less Jenna Coleman and much more the writers.
Yeah.
Tate made a very good point about it. He said these writers want people to like her so much that they're trying to make her this kind of companion Zilla again. And that, I think, is where she becomes a weaker part of it, because it weakens her character by making her so strong. Well,
and I think that, we allude to the fact that, I think you alluded to it, but in the Christmas special after Capaldi's first season, it's called
the one with Santa Claus?
Yeah, it's called Last Christmas.
Yeah.
It was played by Nick Frost.
Yeah.
The wonderful Nick Frost.
Outstanding episode in a lot of ways. Not very Christmassy, but...
There's a Santa.
There.
That was supposed to be Jenna Coleman's departure from the series,
right?
And she decided,
I'm leaving. I'm good.
At the almost literally the last minute. No, I think I'd like to stay.
I'll stay a little bit.
So they kind of had to change the end a little bit.
Yeah.
But man,
when they said the Doctor and Clara will return,
we're like, wait, what?
You guys were like, wait, what? I was like, yes!
No, I was like,
Clara redemption.
That was me. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
A lot of people were mad. I was like, yes, I don't want to, because I didn't want to go out like that.
Well, but I think that
they started writing her off like that, though.
They very much were trying to get her to walk away in that regard, but her send off when she finally gets it is really cool.
No, because once again,
Once again, companion Zilla.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
You're right. You're right.
It was
really cool.
It was a cool
and
idea.
Suddenly, it was like,
execution.
You got out of that.
Yeah.
How did you? Because up until then, because it leads to such a huge development in the show.
Yeah. Right.
We're not spoiling anything, so we're staying
we're not spoiling anything.
Vague.
But she gets out of a situation that she should not have been able to get out of.
Yeah.
In a really cool way, but unfortunately, when you've gotten out of every single other situation.
But here's the thing.
Like, okay, what's
the doctor pulls her out of that situation for, between seconds, for a moment, for a time. Okay, great. Put her back.
Put her back.
Yeah. Because
putting her back
these things come with a cost.
Yeah.
Yes.
And and so
yeah. Putting her back would be a very strong and bold choice that I feel like they neglected.
Yes.
I feel still that I know that they'll never close it off, which is a shame, but it would be a really, really great thing to end that story in some way, to have her finally go back. Much in the same way that they do with the Husbands of River Song.
Yes.
Which is the next episode after she leaves, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
River Song comes back.
This is my tie for best Christmas.
So it's
episode
interesting
ever.
because up to this point, we thought River Song's story arc was done, completed.
Yeah,
Yep.
we did not assume she'd come
There
back.
was a
for
few
Capaldi,
things here and there that was kind of left open, but at the same time, you're like, you know what? I'm okay with how this ended. The logical ending.
Yes.
And they really kind of turn her character on her head just a little bit too.
Yeah.
Because you see
Yes.
aspects of her you've never...
Right. Well, and there are a couple of mini episodes that feature River.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, First Night, Last Night. There's a couple others. You know,
The one where they keep coming in
Yes.
on a loop.
Oh, God, that was so good.
yes, and you know,
Okay, so
The
long
Doctor Who
story
minisodes.
short.
Can we talk about Doctor Who minisodes
Hold
for a
on,
brief
let's-
second? We haven't explained.
So we're not
okay.
confused.
Well, we've alluded to them. We've talked about them with the Night of the Doctor.
Right?
And there are, but every so often, you know, sometimes at the begin, you know, as kind of a warm up for the new season, they will do new episodes or little mini episodes that they'll
episodes.
release to the YouTubes.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, there are the River Song episodes. There is
A lot of them are focused on River Song.
yeah. There's a
Which is cool.
series called 5 mini episodes that make up the Pond Life. You know, it's Rory and Amy's married life.
Yeah. When they're not with the
Pond Life
Doctor.
yeah.
Yes, you know.
What's the list he makes? He makes this great list at the beginning of the episode right after Pond Life, where he's like, step 1, do this. Step 3, 2, do this. Step 3, figure out what's going on with Rory and Amy's marriage.
Yes.
Like fix their marital problems.
Yeah, yeah.
Step 4.
Right.
So, yeah.
You know, there are also things like Time Crash, which I think we talked about before I went to the bathroom, where the 10th Doctor meets the 5th Doctor to solve the problem.
So good.
That, you know, and when he's the 10th Doctor, he remembers coming up with it or hearing himself talk about it as the 5th Doctor,
Right.
you know, and so on. So there are all these little mini episodes that are included on like the DVD sets, or you
But
can
they
find
tie
them
it
on
into
the
the
YouTube.
bigger picture, which is cool.
Yeah, but they help paint some of the details of the larger picture. And why were we talking about that?
We were talking about River Song.
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
So we've
couple
gotten
episodes or so.
yeah some of those.
So we've had a few moments with River
basically,
Song
yeah.
since her departure
Yeah.
and Matt
but
Smith's
we
departure.
were very happy with how it ended. And okay, this is
Yeah, and
how
we've
it
been
ended.
2 seasons without River Song
Right.
in the main series.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love about the Husbands of River Song is, I think you started to say, we see what she's up to when the Doctor's not around.
Yeah. And it's a little sketchy. You feel them a little, you're like, what are you, ma'am?
Yes. And this is
Your virtue is on the line here.
yeah, and this is Charlotte's favorite Christmas special. She will watch it over and over
It's
and over again,
fabulous.
and I don't blame her. It is magnificent, and I always cry. And I know this comes as a big shock.
It doesn't.
Not at all.
Nope.
And it is magnificent.
Yeah. No, it's marvelous.
That's
Absolutely.
great. Mostly because you didn't expect it.
Yeah.
And that end, that
But
ending
it's still
scene, where she
filled
looks
in.
and she asks the question and he gives her the answer, and you're just like, this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And you didn't realize
You
that
didn't know
you
you
wanted
wanted
Didn't
that.
even know that I
Yeah,
wanted
didn't
it.
even
Yeah.
know that you wanted it.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yes, yes.
And
then we get no Doctor Who for a year.
then we lose
We
an
get
entire
nothing
year.
for a year, and then we
been
come back with the following Christmas special, The Return of Dr. Mysterio.
Return of Dr. Mysterio. Yeah,
And that was
get
a
next Christmas.
fun. That was a fun
That was,
episode,
which was really nice because for the last couple of episodes, they were good.
and they were heavy.
They were heavy. But they were not that fun.
Yeah.
And so it was a great
Yeah.
One of the things I liked about The Return of Dr. Mysterio is it kind of plays off some things that happen in The Husbands of River Song.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to necessarily
Yeah,
say
right.
what those are, but you know, basically what we've got here, River Song, The Husbands of River Song is basically a heist movie.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
In similar to Time Heist,
Which is a great episode.
Which is a great episode. Yeah. And then you've got Doctor Who as a superhero story.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun. And one of the things I loved about this episode, when the Doctor is talking to young Grant, the kid, and they're talking about comics, and the Doctor's flipping through. He's like, wait a minute. Clark Kent and Superman are the same guy. He's like, I don't know if he's telling Grant, I don't know if you know this, but look, and he takes his pen and draws glasses onto Superman. He's like, look, they're the same guy. And Grant's like, yeah? This is amazing. Yeah? Oh. You know, and just, there's so many good things. And we get Nardole again. We meet Nardole in The Husbands of River Song.
Yes.
And I didn't really like him in The Husbands of River Song. I don't know that
you're supposed to.
Yeah.
But
because I don't think they really knew where they were going with him at the time.
Right. And I really liked him in The Return of Dr. Mysterio and
the subsequent series.
Yeah, the when we meet Bill, you know, the new companion in the following season, you know, she is amazing and Nardole is amazing, and the interplay between the three of them, just
it was great.
There's a lot of things to Nardole that are amazing. Number one is he's a companion for sure, while not being strictly a 20th or 21st century human.
He's not human.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah. He's not human.
He's a robot.
At this point, he's a
full-on robot.
Yeah.
Number two, Nardole is there to protect the Doctor from himself.
Yeah.
And Bill is there as a catalyst to bring the Doctor back to himself.
Yeah.
Right.
And so he's like, no, you can't be the Doctor anymore.
You have to stay here and teach some
dangerous
classes.
for you to be the Doctor. You can't do it. I'm here to stop you
Spoilers,
from
he works at a university.
I'm here to stop you from being Mr. Fun Adventure Madman in a box. And Bill's
but I kind of see where you're going with it, but...
Can we do more Madman Adventure in a Box things? And he's like, okay. Yeah. Just throws his arms in the air and I guess. And he's, and we get this wonderful dichotomy of both of them have, I think, his best interest at heart. Yeah. But both of them, Bill and Nardole.
Right.
Yeah.
But they both are going about it in such opposite ways, in a way that they're antagonists to each other's goals.
Totally. Yeah.
While you love both of them, there's not really a bad guy in this situation, and you feel for both. You're like, you don't know necessarily what Nardole's goals are. You're like, we're missing something.
Yeah. So in very related news with this season, it's Moffat's last season.
Yes.
It's Capaldi's last season. So they kind of brought their A game with the writing and
I think everyone was refreshed both in the writing and in the audience.
Because again, they took that year off.
Right.
We've been missing a year, and we no longer have Clara.
Yeah.
Which means we can explore a new character.
New and fresh.
Right. And our new companion, Bill, played by Pearl Mackie.
So good. She's so good. She's so
Such
good.
a refreshing
and much like Catherine Tate.
Yeah.
Who comes after the rebound.
Yeah.
She is a companion with no particular interest in romance with...
there is one.
Because she's a lesbian.
Yeah. Because she's a lesbian. Yes.
Yeah.
Which...
that pays off.
Yes.
It pays off eventually.
The first... We meet
great.
Bill in the episode The Pilot, which has kind of a double meaning.
Yeah.
Because in some ways it is a pilot episode.
For this new season.
To introduce all the new kind of status quo.
Yeah. Because we're learning, we're getting a very new series of Doctor Who at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
They've been announced that there's a new writing staff, new showrunner, new doctor, which was a huge thing.
All that is coming. We don't know who the new doctor is yet at this point.
But we know that's coming to an end, and this season is the last one with everybody there, and you're like, okay, we'll see what happens. And the writing is fantastic. The stories were great. The character development was awesome.
Yeah.
It was a great refresher from the last season that I really didn't like at all.
Yeah. And I think many people needed that refreshing. And I think Bill being a lesbian person of color
was huge.
Really, really great compared to Clara's second season. So we get to the pilot.
Yes. And there is just so much good stuff happening there. We meet Bill. We meet the doctor. The doctor is a professor at, I can't remember the name of the
universities over there.
and his classes are always packed.
Yeah.
And he notices Bill because she's not actually enrolled in the class. And
She just serves chips.
yeah, she works. She's a working girl serving chips in the
It's a great
in the
monologue.
cafeteria.
Yeah.
She has this great monologue, audience, because I know you both know about it, where she talks about this girl that she likes, and she talks, because every day the girl comes in and she gives her a few extra chips, and then she's trying to butter her up, but the reality is she's literally buttering her up. And by the end of it, she's like, and then I wasn't really attracted to her because I'd made her this unhealthy woman. And it's just such a testament to like how Bill feels about herself.
Right.
It's like I when I love something, I wind up ruining it. And we have the episode with the pilot, and there's something to be said about that theory that Bill has for herself within that episode.
Yeah, it was almost like a Whoboot within the Whoboot. Hit that button, sir. Hit that button. Boom, worked it in. It's been a while.
That's what she said.
Sorry, Mom.
He's not sorry. He's had ample opportunity to be sorry for all the stupid shit tonight, and he's not sorry.
No, I'm not. Fists on hips. Okay, so after the pilot,
We get
a bunch of multiple episode stories.
yeah, multi-episode arcs.
They
which is my
really
big
changed
thing.
this last season.
well, one of the things that I love, we get the smile episode, which is like the emoji bots.
Yeah.
That's fun. We get Thin Ice, which takes where the doctor takes Bill to the last of the frost fairs. When the Thames had frozen over, which is interesting because we know that other iterations of the doctor have gone to the frost fairs.
Oh, really?
Yes, well, because River has a line about in A Good Man Goes to War. When Rory goes to get her, he says, "Hey, the doctor sent me for you." She's like, "Oh, I just saw him.
Yeah.
We went to the Frost Fair, and Stevie Wonder played." Yeah. And he's like, "Wait, Stevie Wonder played in 17 whatever?" She's like, "Yes, but you mustn't tell him."
yeah.
And so
Lines like that.
yeah, and there are other references in the classic series to the Frost Fairs and things like that. And so we get
to see a frost fair.
We get to see a frost fair, and we get these just this range of locations. We get Knock Knock with the amazing David Suchet, who some of our listeners might know from his time playing Hercule Poirot in the Poirot mysteries. And then we get into this the multi-episode arcs that you guys were talking about, where, I don't want to give them away.
Well, and one of the things that I think is really wonderful about Doctor Who, especially during the Whoboot, is... Oh, wait.
Hit that shit, sir. We'll wait. That's it. Give me that good
is
stuff.
that there's this concept of legacy that they really, really do play with. There is this idea that we need to continue and explore and find new ways to push this show, for sure. But then we also have things like the Frost Fair, the multi-episode arcs, the original Cybermen, that comes in towards the later half of the season.
Yeah.
These ideas really and truly have this wonderful combination of saying, here's where we've come from and here's where we want to go, while never really
but
just
we didn't forget
abandoning.
Where we came from.
There's a ton of Zygon stories within within
especially
the end
that 50th anniversary.
Yeah, the 50th anniversary all the way through Capaldi. We'd never seen a Zygon in regards to since the beginning of Eccleston's run.
Right.
And it's really cool because, they kind of look ridiculous, but they are
A serious threat.
A serious threat. And, and, even the Cybermen are kind of... They did some upgrades to them, but of course... upgrades to them. They did some upgrades to the Cybermen, but they can do that within that.
Yeah, and it makes sense
Daleks somehow still are scary. I don't understand it. They should be just dumb. They're just trash cans with balls on the side. And but at the same time, they're when Daleks show up,
they're
such a formidable foe.
They're terrifying in their implacability.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. In that particular episode with Clara and Missy and the Daleks on, well, I don't want to give it away where they are, but the Witch's Familiar and the Magician's Apprentice are the two episodes. Yes, and in those instances, like those are some really, really good episodes, and Missy and Clara together have a really great
chemistry.
Yeah, they do.
And I think those are the best episodes for her.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. But we move in to the end of the Bill season, and I think we really do get this legacy idea where we start going, let's go back and see what we kind of forgot about in season 2 of Capaldi's run. And I think that's why season 3 of his run went so well. Right. And, with that legacy, there are some things that happen that I'm not going to go into. Yeah. Because spoilers. And even they're really powerful. The context of just the most recent iterations. Yes. By going back to stuff involving Tennant and Eccleston and all that era of Doctor Who. We even get to go back to that now because that's been long enough that we can go, let's do a callback to the Russell T Davies era. Which, and he worked on it. Now we can have this callback. It's just, and it's wonderful because everything folds in on itself. It's especially very timey-wimey.
I was going to say, the show's timey-wimey in itself, and you go back and forth, forward and back. And
we get down to
the last Christmas special.
Yeah, I mean, because Capaldi, he and Bill suffer mightily in the season finale.
In many ways.
That was brutal. Many ways. I had my TV on my coffee table because I hadn't set up my room yet. And I sat on my couch and I watched 7 episodes of that run in a row while my roommates were moving in and moving around me. And it was if it had been on film, everybody would have been moving in fast motion while I sat still on my thing. And my jaw was open. My eyes were flowing tears as I went through those last episodes, just going, no. Right. And it was magnificent. Yeah. And then we get to the Christmas special. We leave off with, at the end of Capaldi's last regular episode, the Doctor falls. Yeah. And he's starting to regenerate. And he's like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to do this again. I'm tired. I don't want to have to figure out who I am again. I don't want to do this. Yeah. And that's where we leave off and pick up at the end of that episode. And we pick up right there at the Christmas special, Twice Upon a Time. Falls out of the TARDIS. It's snowing. Yeah. In comes the first Doctor. Yeah. Played by David Bradley, who is in a similar place. I mean, obviously he's in the same physical place, but in terms, emotionally, in terms of his regeneration, he's in the same place. And the TARDIS takes him there, does it not? Yeah, it does. The TARDIS takes him there because there's the in the Neil Gaiman episode, The Doctor's Wife with 11, there's a beautiful line. The Doctor and Idris, who has the consciousness of the TARDIS, and so they're finally able to talk, to each other. The Doctor says, and since we have the opportunity to talk, you're not very reliable. She's like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And he says, you never take me where I wanted to go. She's like, I always took you where you needed to be. Yes. Yeah, where you needed to go. Yeah. And once again, she does that here. Yeah. Because this is clearly where he needs to be, because they are both at a crossroads. Yeah. 12 is like, I don't want to do this. 1 apparently is doing it for the first time, and he's scared. And now remind us, when the second iteration of the Doctor came, there was no regeneration sequence, was there? Well, there's kind of not in cut out. Well, not in the effects. Obviously, weren't what they could be. They kind of fade in one and fade out the other. They do the fade. Yeah. Okay, so they did show a sort of regeneration. Yes. Okay. And it wasn't there's only the little 3 that just kind of wakes up in color. Right. And there's the footage doesn't really exist anymore. There's a little bit of it that existed in the archives of a children's show called Blue Peter. This. Right.
Yeah.
So the first Doctor is like, I don't know if I want to do this, even though he's an old man.
Yeah.
You know, this is apparently his first regeneration, his first go round of this, and he's not sure what to expect, and he's not sure if he wants to do it.
Right.
And so we have this adventure that 12 and 1 and Bill go on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You know, and
Because you haven't seen it yet.
I haven't.
and we pick up a hitchhiker. I don't think we even get his name. The captain.
The captain.
I think he's just referred to as the
Who
captain.
was played by
Mark
Gaddis.
Gaddis.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Yes,
I missed
Who
the
is-
Christmas special. There was a lot changing in my life at that time.
Right.
So.
that's okay. So and
Mark Gaddis is also who helps co-write Sherlock.
yes.
He's also Sherlock's brother,
He plays Mycroft.
Mycroft.
and he's also in Game of
love him.
Thrones.
Yes.
For a couple episodes.
He's also in something else that I recently saw, and I was like, Mycroft, what are you doing?
He's
love him
great.
as Mycroft.
He's so
fantastic.
good. He's great in this episode too.
Yes, he is fantastic. I'm not going to say anything else
No.
about him because it is
It's a huge
just
part of the episode.
too magnificent. But he's a World War I captain, and
I love World War One
yes,
history.
and they go back to World War I at the end.
Yes, because there's that marvelous line where he calls it World War One, and Mark Gaddis goes, One?
One. Yeah.
And he's like,
And it's spoiler.
yeah. And we get to the end. Everybody goes back to where they're supposed to, and we come to the regeneration sequence. And he is basically laying out the rules for his new self
Before he starts.
before he goes.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And it is just such an amazing. You've seen it.
Oh, yeah,
It's just brilliant.
It was great, and especially
beautiful.
and I loved it because I didn't love the previous season, and this season was just so good.
It's nice to close it nicely.
Exactly.
It closes on the highest of high notes.
Excellent. And I know a lot of people were really excited because they announced that regeneration in August, I want to say. We got the first trailer with that key scene just before we recorded the first half.
Yeah.
of this,
we knew who.
and the second half, which is lost.
Yeah.
Much like somebody, I think it was Eric, who pointed out the irony of the second of a chunk of our Doctor Who episode
Yeah.
being lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Thanks, Eric.
thanks, man. But can we talk about the casting for the 13th
Yeah, 'cause
Doctor?
we
Yes,
didn't
please.
quite get
Let's-
there.
Okay, because Jodie Whittaker is the 13th Doctor.
Yes.
First time we've had a woman Doctor.
Yeah, which is
I am
huge.
super excited
Because we're finally at a time where it doesn't necessarily feel like stunt casting.
Yeah.
I think there's
an element of
talked
it,
early
for
about
sure,
the
but
fandom. We've talked earlier about the fandom who likes it the way they like it.
Right.
So for them, yes, this smacks of stunt casting and tokenism and all
But
this
you know
other
what?
bullshit.
Sometimes you need that.
Considering what we've gone through within this iteration, I feel like it's time.
And
that
it's appropriate.
I think
Yeah,
the Doctor
absolutely.
needs that change.
Well, and
But
you know,
again, they're changing another showrunner as well.
They are changing showrunners.
Yeah,
Do we know who is
Chris
taking over?
Chibnall is our new showrunner,
And he is known
he's
for
written
Broadchurch.
several episodes. Yeah, he was the showrunner for Broadchurch.
Okay.
But he's also worked on
where he worked with Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah.
And
And David
Tennant.
Tennant and the woman who is the second contestant on Number Wang.
Rory. Rory was in the
Rory's
first
in
season.
Broadchurch as well, yes.
So, but with
I need to watch that.
one of the
Many people do,
Yeah.
including myself.
Yeah.
I have heard nothing but good things. I've never heard a bad thing about Broadchurch.
Yeah.
one of the things that has me excited about Jodie Whittaker is this is something that I think Moffat had been kind of building towards as a possibility. We get the first reference to Time Lords changing gender as they regenerate. Actually, in that the Doctor's Wife episode that Neil Gaiman wrote, because he refers to the Corsair, another Time Lord, and how the Corsair always had the same tattoo, man or woman, I think is how he puts it.
And then there was also
Missy.
and then there was in the instances with the general
Right.
that they speak of that I don't want to give away where they are, what they're doing, and how that happens. But there was another one, a major one, because I believe it even happens on camera.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. But then also in the 50th anniversary 8th Doctor episode, there was little tiny things here and there like, oh, I can choose who I want to be and how I want to be.
The Sisterhood of Karn mentions that, hey, man or woman, do what you want, homie.
Yeah, we've definitely established this very thoroughly.
Yeah.
Right.
It just hasn't been done before. Right. And now it has.
And so that's super exciting. You know, and one of the stupid bullshit arguments that I hear is, well, but little boys won't have that role model. Hey, little boys have a bunch of doctor role models. Yeah. How about giving little girls a role model?
Yeah, and certainly. You know what? There's nothing that says that they can't have a female role model.
That's why I love Steven Universe. Is everything that Steven looks up to for strength, aside from the emotional strength of his father, is a woman. Yeah, and there's nothing wrng with that.
Yeah, the gyms.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's the time for this to happen for sure.
Totally.
Right. Yeah. And apparently, it was impossible to. Normally, I would rather these things just sort of show up on my TV in the episodes.
Right.
There's no way to escape that announcement. But as I understand it, and I was able to avoid a lot of this, as I understand it, the companion is actually going to be a group of companions.
Thank goodness.
Which we have not seen since the Fifth Doctor.
Fifth.
Maybe briefly in the Sixth.
Yeah, and even the small group with Smith.
It was nice that we had, Amy and Rory plus occasionally River.
Yeah.
And it was nice that we had Nermal, like Garfield. Come on. Nardal and Bill. And, Ian and Barbara and Susan,
right.
That or
Troughton usually had two.
Yeah, Troughton had, and he went through a couple. And including people from various times that weren't.
Right.
I would love if this group was a collection of I got this knight from the 12th century, and I got this spaceman from this
Matt
colony.
Smith did something similar with with his last season and the one-off movies, basically, because that also happened with that too.
Yeah,
and he had a couple different companions from different timelines, and I'm talking with the dinosaurs on the spaceship.
No, that's all Amy and Rory.
Yeah.
But wasn't there somebody else on there too?
Mr. Pond. Not Mr. Pond. Mr. Williams.
Mr. Pond.
Didn't he pull someone else that was an
Cleopatra.
Yeah, Cleopatra
and the Hunter.
And the Hunter.
The big game hunter. That's right.
He had those random companions, and they were...
Yeah, and that's... Yeah,
but they weren't consistent.
I want the dad from Jumanji.
Yeah, right?
But swarthy.
Yeah. So anyways, so it's kind of cool we get this new showrunner, new doctor, and then new group of companions.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, totally. It feels
really sucks though.
Yeah.
We don't have a premiere date yet.
We know it's going to be in the fall.
We know it's probably it's sometime in the fall, but nothing's.
They're filming. They've been filming for some time.
Right. For a couple months.
Okay, well, now so is there anything industry-wise within the tenure of Moffat of note that was anything bizarre? I don't know that.
What do you mean industry-wise?
Regarding him, regarding his time there, whether he was leaving or whether he wasn't, controversies or anything like that. I feel like he had a pretty
kind of an
benign run.
Something like that.
Moffat?
Didn't he have some? He was he said something about with female. Having being against a female doctor or female companion, or something like that.
No, I think I don't think he had any opposition to a female.
There was a quote by him.
A female doctor. I think his position was just that now is not the right time. I think that he goes. Okay. Because he establishes that it's possible for Time Lords to regenerate into the opposite gender.
Yeah.
I think he responded poorly to controversy about the way he had written female characters at some point.
Maybe
it was like a one-off instance that is clearly given the rest of his actions during the show. Granted, he does have a little bit of a problem with failing the Bechdel test on a regular basis and not giving women lines very much. But then he goes overboard on the other end with Clara, who runs the show for a season and a half. So, that would require much further study and analysis.
Your own question, then.
Yeah, I guess I did. So now honorable mentions, episodes,
spin-offs. We barely touched.
We got Torchwood. We got Class. We got the Sarah Jane Adventures.
So we'll just go briefly into those.
So Torchwood follows the story of Captain Jack Harkness and the rest of his team, which actually do show up in a couple of episodes. Mm-hmm. And the Doctors, or at least Tennant, shows up in theirs as well.
As does Martha.
Martha's there for 2 or 3 episodes, if I'm not mistaken.
Torchwood.
And then that eventually gets its own show, its own season in America on Stars, and it's
co-production.
Terribly dark. Oh my gosh! And it's just really right after that third Children of Earth season, but Miracle Day asks some questions in a way that really messed up. Like it's you want to get to the end because you're hoping something will fix it.
That's exactly it.
And within that, they really explore both things within the Doctor Who universe as well as within their own
current
existing microverse.
And you know what, like, if Doctor Who's not your thing and you're not into that sort of cheesiness, Torchwood is the way to go. Yeah, because Torchwood they leave all of that out and everything's kind of dark. A little bit of cheesiness in the first couple seasons, but they really grow into their own show. That's completely separate.
You get sex scenes, you get
there's some
adult humor, adult romance.
Yeah.
It definitely. My thing for Doctor Who is that it makes me feel like I'm 12. Like, I feel this, I get that same sort of excitement watching Doctor Who as I did when I was watching, like, Dragon Ball Z as a kid. Like, it's just like anything can happen, and we're here. It's like reading Harry Potter for the first time, you know? So, for me, I really feel like Torchwood gives us something that can keep us within that, like, sense of, like, anything can happen, but also treats it with a more mature
Sure.
thing.
Well, Sarah Jane's
the other direction, for sure.
Yeah, Sarah Jane is
more
sort of the...
Matt Smith has a cameo in Sarah Jane Adventures, and he actually talks about regeneration quite
Yes. Well, the Sarah Jane Adventures is almost like the training wheels version of the show, of the Doctor.
For sure.
You know.
So Sarah Jane was a companion with which Doctor first?
3 with John Pertwee, the third. She was also companions with the fourth. Shows up for a little bit with 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With K9.
Yeah.
Yep.
K9.
And then 11 shows up, as you said, on her show.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it is.
So she's been around a little
Yeah,
while.
it's Sarah Jane's life, sort of what she's doing.
Right.
When the Doctor.
Because she too leaves the Doctor in a healthy way.
Yeah.
No. She leaves the Doctor later in a healthy way.
Yeah.
She sort of ditches him.
Not the first time.
Yeah, the second when she shows up with Tennant, there's closure there for her.
Yeah.
When she leaves the fourth Doctor just sort of abandons her on the side of the road, nowhere near where she actually is supposed to be. So
yeah. But she, like Catherine Tate's character Donna, she also kind of longs for a little bit more excitement and adventure in her life now that she's in the post-Doctor awareness.
Yeah, and she straight says, life with the Doctor is a tough act to follow.
Yeah, I think, doesn't she say that to Martha?
No, she says that to Rose.
Does she say it to Rose?
Yeah.
Well, Rose didn't have to deal with it. So then there's Class. Have any of you guys seen Class?
No, that was the spinoff from last year?
No, the spinoff from Capaldi's second season.
Right.
Capaldi definitely shows up in the trailer.
Yeah.
And it's a late teens high school era.
He shows up in the first episode, and it takes place at Coal Hill School.
Yep.
And
where Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright, where they both originally worked. Not with their characters, obviously, but where they worked in the original.
Right. And so, I mean, and we've talked about how Coal Hill School is kind of a recurring location. Clara and Danny both taught there. Remembrance of the Daleks, which is a Seventh Doctor story, takes place there.
Okay.
You know, and so it's well steeped in Doctor Who
sort of
lore.
Fixed space in time.
Fixed point in time and space, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it's alien, stuff. One of the main characters is an alien. Like kind of like an alien prince / foreign exchange student here on Earth.
And they've got
I can't remember, honestly, if it was a foreign exchange student or they're like seeking refuge.
Like an exile sort of situation.
Like an exile or like from the war. And then one of the teachers is like their chaperone, but she's being punished. She doesn't really like the kid.
Yeah.
And so her punishment is to protect the kid, and
Gotcha.
so. I think it was kind of intended to be like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the Whoniverse.
That sounds so wonderful. But it has one season, and it was canceled.
Sounds like we got a crossover.
Mitch and Molly, if you are listening.
Hello.
Thanks for getting this far. Okay, so
Also, make sure you watch Class.
Yeah, make sure you watch Class. So we've got all those extra ancillary things, and then are there any episodes that we didn't get to talk about?
I'll regularly go back to the Pandorica opens and the Big Bang.
Yeah,
They are just, to me, they're just exquisite. We get the payoff for Rory's long unrequited love for Amy. Mm-hmm. We get more River.
Always good.
I'm always here for more River.
definitely.
We get some things in these 2 episodes that are going to pay off, in the next season. We get, there's just so much good stuff.
And it's the introduction of the Fez.
Yes, I have a Fez. I love the
Fezes
Fez.
are cool.
And I always cry in these episodes.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Brian, any of the
I kind of covered mine.
the Lodger and
Closing time.
Closing time, also known as the Return of Craig.
Yeah. Return of Craig.
I love the Doctor Can Speak Baby and Dad Skills motif that comes up from time to time. Did we talk about Sarah Jane?
Because he talked about that he has kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
and at
was
least
a
one,
huge
at least one
thing.
grandchild.
Yeah.
At least one grandchild.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
So, really quick.
Yeah.
Dave, what are you reading right now?
Currently, well,
Oh wait, my episode is the episodes of the gas mask. They're freaking great. Blink and that one are terrifying.
Are
Moving
you my
on.
mummy?
Are you my mummy?
I'm looking for a blonde. A specific one. I didn't just wake up with a craving. Okay. I've recently read Engines of War, which is a War Doctor novel by George Mann.
That's awesome.
It is excellent. I also have recently read the Diaries of River Song.
How was
A bunch
that?
of short stories.
I mean, other than
Good.
just adorable and sweet, but
So good. So good. We get some things paid off that are referred to in episodes. So,
but you said you were about to read something River Song related.
yes,
as well.
on my summer stack is The Doctor's Lives and Times, which is kind of in universe. It's like River's doctoral thesis.
Gotcha.
Cool.
She interviews former companions.
Yeah.
Goes on the digs, does the archaeology stuff.
Of course, she is an archaeologist.
Right, and
Yep.
it is so cool looking, and I just couldn't resist it. And I'm like, okay, I got to deal with that.
Yeah, and then you're in the middle of.
I just started reading The Catcher Was a Spy, the story of Mo Berg by a guy named Nick Davidoff.
Not Doctor Who related.
Not Doctor Who related,
Still
but
cool.
super cool. It's about a baseball player from the 30s and 40s named Mo Berg, who was recruited by. He was a terrible baseball player, but he was super brilliant. Spoke like a dozen languages.
Wow.
And
True story.
Yes, completely true.
Yeah,
story.
Yeah, this isn't a comic book thing.
Yeah,
or
this is
straight
and
up.
he was
real
he
life.
was recruited by
Like a pirate book.
Right. He was recruited by the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, which was like the precursor to the CIA,
Okay.
as a spy to go.
Super rad.
Yeah, and there's a film version coming out, like in the fall, I think, starring Paul Rudd. So I'm super excited about
Down
that.
with Paul.
The trailer is out. Check it out. It looks awesome. And let's see. I've recently read Earth One Green Lantern. It was super cool. It had some things I did not expect.
Cool.
Justice League Dark, I think you
I
mentioned
did.
earlier.
I've got the first 2 the first 2 collections of Justice League Dark from the New 52. Excited about those.
I hear good things.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm going to get the DVD.
Oh, cool.
The cartoon, the animated.
Did I
short
tell you
film.
that Amir and I went to go watch the Suicide Squad animated film?
Oh, I'm sure it was
Yeah.
terrible.
Oh, it was wonderful. And yes, terrible. Utterly terrible.
Batman have sex with anybody he shouldn't have?
No.
Everybody.
No.
What?
No, he was not really in it.
Oh, well, that's
Okay.
good.
So I guess it was too busy having sex with,
Everybody else.
That's a reference to the Killing Joke film, which was
took some liberties.
yeah, that's one way to put
Some
it.
brand new liberties.
Yeah. Took some liberties, took those liberties to bed. Anyway.
Yeah. What do you
That
got going
movie
on,
wasn't
Bryce?
the only thing that was. Anyway,
What do you got going on, Bryce?
I am So I just got a new bookshelf. So I'm really excited
Congratulations.
because I
filled it yet?
actually I got a new shelf, which means I get to move my gaming systems all onto the shelf so that I can start organizing the stacks of books I have sitting all around my bedroom.
Okay.
There's this old anime called Read or Die, and it opens with a girl who is like maneuvering through her bedroom, stepping over like stacks of books that she's just got piled up. That's kind of what my bedroom looks like right now. I have so many books. And of course, I can't. Every time I see new books, I buy new books. So
I got the same problem.
Yeah.
I recently bought a dinosaur book, which I was really excited because it's a Doctor Who dinosaur book. And
Really?
I have that affinity for these old Doctor Who
I
books.
didn't know
so
those.
it was like
Is it an adaptation?
no, I think it's it's either an adaptation or original story, but it's a novel.
Okay.
And I think it's like something simple like Doctor Who and the Dinosaurs or something like that. And it's got a big green, very vaguely anatomically accurate, and by that I mean like the 70s version of what a T-Rex should look like.
Oh, it's not where I thought that was going.
Oh no, it happens to have like a T-Rex on it that, like how old T-Rexes were drawn versus how
dick?
current. God damn it, Brian.
Might it be Invasion of the Dinosaurs?
It might be Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Let me see the cover.
Well, that's the
new cover.
video.
Oh.
Hang on.
So I got that, and then I have Doctor Who and the Cybermen. And I believe they're both either 70s or 80s, given that their logos are there. Yes, that is the book.
Yep.
This is a podcast.
It is the
Dave just pulled it up on the Amazons.
Doctor Who and the Dinosaur Invasion, an adaptation of the story, the third Doctor story, written by Malcolm Hulk.
Right on. Well, I just got that.
It's pretty happy to find that.
And the Silmarillion, and I'm definitely not going to dig into that one anytime soon because I'm in the middle of like 5 other books.
Well, yeah.
But I have a small stack on my nightstand of comics and books, and then I've got a few books actually on my mattress itself that when I go to bed every night I look over and I
Someone's
go,
got a problem.
which one am I reading? And I pick one up and I get through enough till I fall asleep. And I get through maybe 6-7 pages a night, and that's how I've been reading lately because I've been working 12 and 16-hour days.
Yeah.
And I just got over pneumonia. Oh my god! I just finished Gurren Lagann. Okay, so there's
That's
an anime.
easy for you to say.
Yeah.
There's an anime.
Is that a
called,
word? You're just making up words now.
There's an anime called
Aren't all
Gurren
words
Lagann.
made up?
Thank you.
There's an anime called Gurren Lagann, and I finished it. And anyway,
Oh, man.
so
What about you, B-Ron?
Brian, please.
I don't know. What did we talk?
I started the audiobook, Star Wars The Last Shot, which is kind of the lead into the new Han Solo movie.
Who's reading it? Do you know?
There's 3 readers on it. So check it out.
Yes.
Check this out. So the main story happens 3 to 4 years after it's a horrible DJ. DJ YouTube retire. Or just stick to the clicks. It's fine. Boom. I resurrected DJ. Can we hit the button? Actually, he'll want the button. Everybody loves DJ YouTube. We'll explain that later. Here we go. Thank you. That's for Bryce, apparently. So, Last Shot. There's 3 main stories in it that's read by 3 different readers.
Oh, that's
The main story happens about 3 to 4 years after Return of the Jedi. The New Republic's starting to do their thing. And then Lando comes up. He's like the first scene with Han hits him. And he said, well, I probably deserve that, but what the hell? He's like, dude, you screwed me over. Some dude tried to assassinate me because you did something with the Falcon when it was still under my name.
Oh no.
So it flashes back to young Lando stuff and then young Han Solo stuff separately, but everything's read by a different reader.
Tell me the young Lando stuff is read by Donald Glover.
God, I wish. No, one of the readers is really good. One of the readers is not so much. One of the readers is female, which is cool. Gives a nice fresh take to it. But it all kind of leads up to the main story that's going on and kind of the backstory behind it. And it sort of Tarantino's it a little bit. Well, not really.
Interesting.
But no, it's a really cool idea. And the Ahsoka book did that a little bit.
Ahsoka liked to take away and be like, here's what's happening with Yoda at this time.
Wait,
and here's
what?
what's happening with...
No?
Obi-Wan at this time.
No?
Yes.
When?
In the audiobook.
What?
Yeah, it was these random asides. It did some flashbacks with
read the book,
with Rex and with Darth Maul and stuff, but there was like this random scene on Tatooine that had like no purpose. Yeah. It was in the audiobook specifically.
Okay. I actually read the book.
Yeah, I listened to it actually in one shot.
Oh, that's right.
I drove all the way to Oregon.
But anyways, that's kind of what I'm reading right now, and I'm kind of refreshing with stuff because my girlfriend's going through all my comics like Bryce did, except I bought more in the meantime, so I'm throwing those in too. So now I'm like remembering all the stuff that she's freaking out about. He just got to House of M, and I'm like, oh yeah,
House of M is so good. Yeah. I really hope that is a direction that the cinematic universe takes.
Yeah. Anyways,
I think that would be a mistake to introduce the X-Men into the MCU, but that's a different podcast.
To introduce them entirely?
Yes.
That's fair.
Ooh,
that's
You don't need to introduce the X-Men. You just need to introduce Hugh Jackman. That's all I want. I just want Cap and Wolverine together.
I still want Hugh Jackman to play Shane.
That'd be really great.
That would be pimp. One thing I forgot to mention. I have when we did the WonderCon podcast.
Yeah.
I mentioned that I had gotten that run of Wonder Woman that I was looking for, except for issue 72 with the fancy cover. That was the last part of the story.
Yeah. What happened with that?
I got the book.
Yeah.
I got issue 72.
Who drew the cover?
Brian Boland.
Brian Boland.
Yes,
that's the iconic
shield
on the rock.
platonic ideal.
Yeah.
Yes, of Wonder Woman. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So I got that.
Well, we said we were going to talk about it later, so I want to say it really, really quick. Wilf was in the Peter Cushing Doctor Who film.
Yes.
And it has recently changed, and I think we might have talked about this in the WonderCon episode.
We did.
But
WonderCon? One of the
other episodes we talked about that...
It was not the WonderCon episode.
It was the update.
Doctor Who and the Daleks film is now a film that exists within the Doctor Who universe.
Yes.
As a film. And there are strong illusions that Peter Cushing's role in Rogue One
was actually
Peter Cushing in the Doctor Who universe.
Yes. Thanks to the new novelizations
which are written
of episodes that are written by Stephen Moffat, that are written by Russell T. Davies, that are written by...
Come back. That's another aspect of this legacy
really
thing,
cool.
is that these people, not just the actors, but many members of the crew also continue to come back and do work for the show.
And they want to, and they're not
They want to. And I think that's the case in many situations.
A lot of times
with
they're
British
fans
television.
to begin with.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's going on with Star Wars. That's what's going on with Marvel. You know, a lot of what we know and love today in the geek world. You know, these people are coming on because they
and
grew
becoming
up with
professionals
these
themselves.
Things, you know, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for
wraps it up
to
there.
this wonderful excursion into the Whoboot.
Yeah.
That is my undying shame.
Sucker.
All right.
Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bryce and Dave, for joining us again.
Yeah,
again.
thanks,
My pleasure.
Brian and Dave, for joining us again.
Thanks, Shaba and B-Rom, for coming over.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having us and feeding us Swedish fish and mega stuffed Oreos.
And drinky drinks.
And cake and drinky drinks.
Yes, and cake and drinky drinks. Sorry.
We got down pats.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
Boy, that's terrible. Okay.
You're supposed to be here going,
Sorry, my bad.
you've ruined everything.
To be fair, it didn't take long.
We'll keep that in and we'll put that in.
Yeah, at the end.